Hey guys, it's Courtney from Cosmic Clay Astrology. Before we hop into the video, quick message. And this is definitely related to eclipse season, there have been some incredibly powerful hurricane impacts on Asheville, North Carolina. I do have family out there, I do have friends out there, and a lot of people are stranded. They have no electricity, they have no water, they can't get in touch with people, emergency services. Some of them don't have food and access to people because the roads have been washed away, homes have been washed away. My mom even sent me a video today of a casket rushing down like a basically what looks like a river. So I'm going to be donating to a fund that I will link down below. If you guys also want to contribute, if you want to help so that people can get some of the supplies that they need and not die, then please feel free to do that along with me. I definitely want to make some kind of impact, give out. This is a Libra eclipse after all, which is all about our brethren and our brothers and sisters. So if you are interested in donating along with me, again, I will link that down below. I will link multiple options if you're interested in checking that out. And let's go ahead and dive into this video. Hey guys, this is Courtney from Cosmic Clarity Astrology, and today I'm here to talk to you today about the Libra Solar Eclipse happening on October 2nd at 10 degrees and 3 seconds of Libra. So, first of all, I wanted to start off by saying that we are having in the United States some really bad hurricanes, unprecedented, I would say, for where it's hitting in North Carolina. And I know that a town that I have lived in for a small period of time, Asheville, is like being swept away by the rain. And we did just have a Pisces lunar eclipse, which is Pisces is in modern astrology ruled by Neptune, and Neptune is the god of the sea. So there's definitely the potential for kind of these natural disasters to occur during times like this, during eclipse season. Hopefully this Libra solar eclipse won't bring more of that type of energy. If anything, I feel like Libra is a little bit more about the aid aspect of responding to a natural disaster, because Libra, where this solar eclipse is, which a solar eclipse is a new moon in case you don't know, but it's with the south node. So a new moon, and especially in Libra, is really about bringing people together. It's about trying to create some sense of understanding. Unfortunately, this new moon is with Black Moon Lilith. It's exactly conjunct Black Moon Lilith and the South Node, or close to the South Node. So it does taint a little bit of the kind of goodness that a Libra new moon could bring in that sense. Black Moon Lilith is an asteroid that's associated with oftentimes like things, it has a very Plutonian influence, like things that have been kind of underneath the surface, that have been hidden, that have been secretive, that you have been ashamed to admit or to act on. And if you are interested in hearing kind of more information about Black Moon Lilith, I do have a video particularly on that, so you can just look on my channel, Black Moon Lilith. If I remember, I'll link it down below. Probably will not remember, just so you know. So with this being a Libra eclipse with Black Moon Lilith, it does kind of give me the feeling that there are going to be some people, not everybody, but there are going to be some people who are having relationship issues come up where the truth is coming to light about something that may have happened in the past. So if somebody betrayed another person, or if something was going on inside of another person that their partner wasn't aware of, or their friend wasn't aware of, like unspoken things happening. I really feel like this Libra eclipse can bring all of that to the surface. And because this eclipse is also with the South Node, there is some element here of the past kind of coming back up, to be let go of. The South Node is about wanting to release something. And so many of us might feel like things happen in our relationships that bubble things up to the surface, again, in order to be processed and released, and things that in particular may be kind of uncomfortable to confront in certain ways, because of Black Moon Lilith's influence. Um, Black Moon Lilith is really also about like the wild feminine. And so in many ways, especially with this being a Libra eclipse, which is ruled by Venus, there's this element of the kind of the divine feminine here, even though Libra is a masculine air sign. Um, there is something here about these kind of our sensuality, our connection with our appearance, our connection with our worthiness, with our body, with our um, maybe seduction or whatever that is. Like all of those themes can definitely come up around an eclipse like this. And for some of us, we might be, it's a new moon, so some of us might be kind of creating a new way of relating to ourselves in that way, or we could be having kind of a clean slate or a new reset within our relationships or within a particular relationship. Some of us might even meet somebody new. So yeah, there can be a lot of new beginnings in general with a Libra eclipse, and it is a potential that the new beginning would ask you to not bring the past forward with you, but face it and release it in that process. So, and that's because it's with the South Node. So let's say you meet somebody new, maybe they bring up certain aspects in your heart around an old relationship, and you're forced to kind of process that and release it in order to connect with this new person. Or maybe somebody from the past actually comes back up into your life, and those themes and topics around, you know, things that were unspoken, things that were unsaid, things that were hidden, things that were taboo, things that were not accepted within the relationship or within society could come back up to the surface for you to either play out again or for you to address, to move past it. It's going to kind of depend on person to person, but there's definitely those themes that are at play here. And I do often see Black Moon Lilith involved in triangulated relationships, which is often, cheating or something of that nature where there's three people involved, like three partners basically that maybe don't know about each other. So that there is definitely that potential for some people out there to experience themes around that within their dynamics with others. If not, it can still be talking about ways that we might feel that we are misunderstood by society or by others. And the new moon can, again, bring that up so we can hopefully create some level of understanding between whoever's involved. This eclipse also has a square to Mars in Cancer. And this is interesting to me. We are having Mars about to go through a retrograde period in these, really it's going to be like months, not only of Mars retrograde but of Mars trying to retrace its steps. Like it's not going to actually make much progress into the sign of Leo until May of 2025. We're really going to be having like a few degrees of Leo and then a few, half the degrees of Cancer that Mars will be traversing for again and again, like multiple times for all the way from the beginning of the year until, or like December until May. So we're really sitting in these themes of Mars and Cancer. And yeah, I'm going to have a whole separate video on that. But Mars and Cancer is definitely going to be very prominent for us. So this eclipse taking place with a square to Mars and Cancer definitely indicates some of the themes that we might experience for several more months, things that we might be kind of dealing with or confronting. And Mars in Cancer can be a little bit more like emotionally reactive because Mars is our defense. Mars is our like protective mechanism. It is our anger. It is our response to adversity, or in this case with what was happening in North Carolina, it's like the emergency response where we're going to take care of, supplying these people with food, with needs that they don't have, which really feels like, again, representative of this eclipse, a Libra eclipse. Let's all come together for this kind of emergency. But on a kind of basic relational level, Mars is a very divisive planet, and it's the opposite ener- energetic imprint of Libra. Libra is about the union and the harmony, and Mars is about confrontation and separation. And when Mars, again, is in Cancer, Cancer is a water sign. Cancer is in charge of our emotions. Cancer is very subjective and very reactive, and maybe even a little bit emotionally impulsive. And so I think in some ways, Mars in Cancer can be a benefit to us because it's going to help us kind of like get out with our feelings in a circumstance, in a relationship, potentially. If there's anything that has felt like unfair or unbalanced or something from the past, um, maybe you felt like you were again misunderstood or wrongly accused of something or involved into something that was messy in some kind of way in your past. With this Mars in Cancer squaring the Libra eclipse, it could bring up all the kind of pent up anger around that situation and have you maybe potentially have an emotional outburst or have you confront that person or that situation in order to kind of get that off your chest. Basically, Mars in Cancer can be passive aggressive as well. It's Cancer is a sign of the crabs sidestep, so there can be that potential, especially with this being a Libra eclipse, where we want to kind of pacify people and we don't want to rock the boat too much, but we still want to get our feelings out. And so we kind of come about it in this roundabout way where we maybe, again, act our resentment or anger or frustration out through these kind of passive aggressive or more hidden kind of ways that aren't as direct. So hopefully the goal here, I think, is to use this Mars and Cancer energy to as a catalyst to be willing to face something or confront something with somebody, even if it's uncomfortable, but to ultimately bare your heart to them in order to create a greater sense of connection and intimacy or union. And so if there is something kind of dividing you from somebody else, or if there's been something that's been on your heart within a dynamic, especially from the past, this is a really good time to confront that, or this is just in general a time when those things are likely to happen, maybe more than others. It's a time of really seeing the truth about things because the Libra eclipse is ruled by Venus, and Venus is in Scorpio. And Scorpio is all about our sense of truth and in many ways like authenticity, like seeing what's really below the surface, seeing what is really somebody's motivation or somebody's true feelings about something or why something really happened. And so I think a lot of us have the potential at this new moon to like actually understand the whole situation of something in our life, especially when it involves other people. We don't always know why other people do certain things or why something, manifested the way that it did. And I really feel that this solar eclipse is going to give us the opportunity to dig deeper. And with that square to Mars, maybe people are more honest about their feelings. And the Venus and Scorpio can represent the true understanding of like what's behind all of those feelings, what all of this means, what the truth really is in the situation. And it might even feel like, yeah, when I pulled a card to describe the Venus and Scorpio, I pulled a Tower card. And I think for some people it might feel like the Tower, like a revelation is coming that might feel potentially harsh, or there could be some kind of shocking change or some kind of liberation or the falling down of this edifice of what you thought what life was like or what you thought that relationship was like, and the farce falls and the truth remains, and it can be sometimes jolting to the system. to have this kind of awakening. And, you know, Venus doesn't like to be in the sign of Scorpio. It does function a little bit differently in the sign of Scorpio. And I think that might be why I pulled the Tower to some extent, because, you know, Libra wants things to be just fair and balanced and fun and easy, but Scorpio will show where there are imbalances, where there is toxicity, where there is kind of, yeah, these more uncomfortable emotions of jealousy or comparison. And these are themes that Black Moon Lilith can bring up as well. So again, I think any of those, if any of those things are existing within a current situation that involves other people, this eclipse is going to bring it to a head. And if you have any planets around 10 degrees of Libra, or really any of the cardinal signs, so Aries, Capricorn, and Cancer, you may find that this eclipse is hitting your life much more personally. Not every eclipse is going to be felt like every other eclipse. It's the eclipses that are touching a planet or an angle in your chart that impact you in a really noticeable way. So if you watch one of my videos, you're like, that never happened. It's because it probably didn't touch an important part of your chart to activate your personal life and these changes in your life. So really be looking out for those 10 degrees of cardinal signs. Could be plus or minus 5 degrees, really. Okay. This Venus in Scorpio is also in a grand trine with Mars in Cancer and then Saturn in Pisces. So I feel like these planets, all in water signs, are really feeding off of each other in a way to create, it's almost like it creates the necessary like magic or the necessary skills or the right kind of energy to be able to facilitate this emotional awakening or this kind of way to connect with ourselves, with others, and reveal things or disclose things from, again, a deeper emotional or even a spiritual and intuitive place. Like, I feel guided to maybe share this right now, or I randomly had the synchronicity of someone popping up into my life, and now I see that I need to maybe process something around this. There's things like that that can happen where we're very kind of like psychically or intuitively guided to our next steps, or things can fall into place synchronistically, and then emotionally it's our opportunity to bear ourselves or to have some sense of vulnerability here, in order to create the right environment for this Libra connection to take place. And the Grand Trine in water is also very creative, very inspired. So it can be very helpful to think about, like, what do I want to do with these feelings or these experiences or what my intuition is telling me? And for some of us, there might be creative or spiritual outlets for the things that we're experiencing now that these planets in a trine can help us access. Yeah, I definitely, trines create that potential for success, and even maybe to some extent when you're doing the work, some sort of bliss by using these kind of innate gifts that are being given to us at the time, or blessings that are being bestowed upon us. And I think that this same trine can indicate the potential for things to manifest on an outward level as well. So when you're kind of harnessing that creative energy or that intuitive energy, and you're really taking this kind of inspired action, and since Saturn is involved, this sense of kind of like consistent determination as well with that, it's almost like that can then manifest as some type of achievable success, or a success that is witnessed by others, because this is a Libra eclipse. So like some sense of recognition, or awareness of one's talents can also manifest as a result of this eclipse. Again, especially if it is aspecting your sun, for example, or your midheaven, or even your moon, there can be or Jupiter or Venus, there can be this kind of congratulations or recognition or promotion as a result of this eclipse, and of you kind of following your own again, creative inspiration. Okay. um I did, as an advice card, I did pull the chameleon. So there's this need for us to adapt, but it's interesting because Libra is kind of a social chameleon, maybe like Libra and Gemini to some extent. There's a sense of, I know how to belong, like I know what to say to make this person like me, or I know what to say in this situation to be charming. I know how to relate to this person. And so in that sense, I think all of us can be maybe embodying more of that chameleon energy. I don't think that's the advice necessarily, in the sense that, I think a lot of this Venus and Scorpio is very authentic and honest, and we don't want to camouflage ourselves so much to the environment that we become disingenuous. But I also think that there is a superpower to this, the adaptability, the ability to see other people's perspectives, the ability to compromise and connect with others despite hurdles or misunderstandings. And I think the chameleon has that ability to to take on different perspectives and roles and understand where people are coming from and where they maybe fit best into something, into a role, for example, but not coming from a dishonest place. I think that you can show different parts of yourself at different times, or feel certain things more at other times, and it doesn't make that disingenuine when you're not always showing all aspects of the self. So yeah, I also think that another big aspect of this eclipse is just the idea of communication and revealing what has been hidden. Again, especially if there's some type of like betrayal or manipulation, especially emotional manipulation, those things can become really aired out at this time. I could see it as an emotional reset, a new beginning, especially if you were deceived by yourself as well, like where you may not have seen the whole situation clearly because, again, there's this grand trine in water. Water is subjective. Water is biased. It doesn't always indicate that we're gonna see things how they truly are playing out. And so we might have more kind of revelation or awareness or awakenings around the whole situation, the truth of a situation. And I think it can be healing, though, because, we have Jupiter and Gemini, and it's making this exact sextile to Chiron and Aries. So I don't know, it's almost like the more awareness that we have around something, the more that we communicate about something, the more that we air something out, it's like the more that we can heal. And with this being a Libra eclipse, make peace with our past, make peace with certain relationships, put things to bed, have this kind of fresh start for ourselves, and no longer maybe hold on to things that were, again, creating some kind of anxiety or pent up resentment or disconnect with other people or lack of confidence within ourselves. Because not all, like a Libra eclipse doesn't have to indicate that other people are involved, but it definitely will point to relationships in general, and that could be your relationship with yourself. So I'd be curious, if this were taking place in the first house, for example, this might have a lot to deal with, your relationship with yourself and your own identity, and being honest with yourself. We also have Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn, so we're kind of getting like that last little bit of Pluto in Capricorn, and it's making a trine to Uranus and a sextile to Neptune. So all these kind of far, far outer planets are all involved. And whenever the outer planets are involved, it does feel like there's something like quite spiritual and out of our control, like these kind of divine forces at play that are working with one another to bring out kind of collective realizations, because these planets being so far away are not as personal to us as individuals, but they really speak more to the collective experience. And so with these planets, at least they're in a positive aspect. I feel like, hopefully this indicates that there is this kind of collective awakening in many ways. And potentially even like spiritual awakening with Neptune being involved here. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what happens as a result of this eclipse. We're going to go into what this will look like for all of the signs. Definitely make sure you watch for your sun and your rising. I personally watch for both of those because I notice that there's things in both that are very relevant. And sometimes people will watch for their moon sign to get an understanding of more of their kind of emotional changes, like these deep internal changes that can be happening at this time. So I'd love to hear also from you in the comments down below what's happening for you during this eclipse, if you are being impacted by this hurricane that's happening on the East Coast, how you maybe see that in relationship with the eclipses, and anything else you want to share. So don't forget to comment down below and check the timestamps in the description box for all of your signs. All right, up first we have Aries rising and sun. So this Libra eclipse happening on October 2nd is taking place in your 7th house. And normally the first thing that I think about is the potential for some kind of new relationship to happen here. That is kind of the most stereotypical prediction, I guess, as a result of this transit. But what I'm getting from the cards is a little bit different. And I'm going to kind of blend these two together as I talk about the cards and the astrology. So new beginnings in relationships, resetting in relationships are very possible. And this moon is making a square to Mars, which is your planetary ruler in your 4th house. So there is a clear message here, especially with the 9 of Wands that I pulled in reverse. There's a clear message here around kind of being aware of being maybe overly guarded, overly defensive, especially because of things from the past, or not learning from your past in certain ways, or like there's a sense of like unwillingness to maybe see another person's perspective because of the influence of emotions from your past experiences. It can create this kind of rigidity in perception that I think this eclipse is trying to break open to create better partnership. And yeah, I think that that's kind of like one of the main messages here for you guys. The ruler of this eclipse is Venus, which is in your 8th house. It's trining Saturn in the 9th and Mars in the 4th. So to me, this is a process of really having to kind of move through these deep emotions and subconscious and habitual patterns and begin to kind of release yourself from them, or bring consciousness and awareness to them and create the ability to choose rather than just react. And so that is what I think is ultimately going to create the sense of connection or intimacy, or this kind of like newness within your relationships. And this can be any kind of relationship. One of the things that I think is really emphasized in the cards here for you guys is this rapid decision-making process. So there is a message here that some of you guys may have an idea or something. You guys might be, just like the words, we have cleverness and we have wisdom. So I don't know, there's something here where you guys, I think, are coming into a phase of maybe feeling very smart. Like your brain is working really well. And I think that you're going to have some kind of idea or communication or something happen where you have the opportunity to act on something. And the sugar glider card talks about having some kind of leap of faith. And it does remind me of the Fool card in the sense that you might not have all the answers, or it might feel like a stretch to take a step further into something. But if you guys are wondering around the time of this eclipse, if you're wondering about, should I do this or that, or should I make some kind of decision around this thing? I have this idea that I'm excited about, and I'm not sure. This is really telling you that it is absolutely encouraged, that whatever this is going to end in this Empress energy. And I do have the Eight of Wands right after that. So it's like, I feel that whatever this is, it's going to come through very quickly. You're going to have to maybe make the decision quickly, or the idea is going to come to you quickly, or the event or the whatever this thing is going to, come up faster. And it's like, it's telling you to just go on the adventure, take the leap, follow your curiosity. You have a lot of wisdom. You have great ideas. You have things that are worth acting on. So there's a few different messages here, but that's one of them. The sugar letter card is also talking about this animal is very protective of its clan, of its family, of its community. And it was saying that there are markings on the animal so they know like who belongs with their clan. And so I feel that there's something here with Mars being in Cancer in the 4th and this eclipse squaring it, where there could be this kind of extra dose of sensitivity, or again, like protectiveness that you might have towards something or someone. It could be your family, or towards something that you are like holding on to that is comfortable for you, that you might have to let go of in order to take this leap of faith. It could be, certain types of relationships that you're holding on to. It's going to look different for everybody, but there does seem to be some kind of influence that runs through the past, or runs through your family, or is deeply emotional for you. And because it's emotionally charged, it's easy to get very protective over it and want to like not let anything in. And I feel that it's not about you necessarily letting something in, although it could be in terms of a relationship or another person. But I think it's also about letting yourself out as well with this Mars, with this squaring Mars in the 4th. There is this kind of, there's a need to like get out of the house, let yourself out of any kind of like protective mechanisms that you might be instigating at this time that could keep you from the Empress energy, which is feeling abundant, feeling happy, feeling successful, feeling like things are flowing, feeling like you're in this divine kind of feminine energy where you're receiving things and receiving blessings. And this is a very Venusian card. So Venus is about connection and blessings, and again, receiving and valuing yourself. And so those are the beautiful things on the other side of taking this leap. But I think that you have to be willing to kind of, again, let down some of those protective mechanisms. And I think an important part of this as well is being able to be more objective with your planetary ruler in Cancer. I'm going to have a video about Mars moving retrograde, but Mars is going to retrograde through Cancer. So you're definitely going to want to watch that one because it's going to impact you for many months. And this is really a time where you guys are going to be deeply attached to and kind of working through issues surrounding your emotions, your home, your place of living, your comfort zone, your family, your habits and attachments in general. And I think this eclipse is bringing out some of the things that are going to unfold in a deeper way as Mars does retrograde through Cancer in the new year. And so there's something here where I feel like you guys are like overly stubborn about something, but it's coming from an emotional place with Mars and Cancer. It has those kind of roots like, oh, our family taught us this way. And so like this is the way it's done. And it's coming from a place of maybe like, I don't know, patriotism or loyalty to one's family, or I don't know, whatever, wherever it's coming from. But there's a sense of like connection to it on an emotional level. And I feel that you guys, one of the messages that you need to hear is that with the Temperance and the Queen of Swords, I think that you would do best to be a little bit more objective and kind of like patient, not as reactive, and looking at the facts, seeing both sides, willing to take in new information. I think that's going to really benefit you a lot, because the Queen of Swords, she benefits from the logic of things. And with Jupiter and Gemini, all of us benefit from that right now. And especially you with it in your third house, it kind of has that double meaning of it's time to open up your mind a little bit and not be maybe stuck in a particular mindset and unwilling to take on the perspective of others. And that could also be what an eclipse in the seventh house represents, is being willing to let others in terms of the way they influence you and the way that they help you see maybe other opportunities that you wouldn't have seen, or kind of do something in a different type of way. It's like allowing someone to open up your mind so that you can get this beautiful Empress energy and move really quickly towards a blessing. And it's like you need that sense of partnership or support, or maybe you're even signing a contract with a company. It's like you need to be, amenable to what they have to say, of what they expect from you. Things like that, where it's like you're working with somebody else, or other people can positively influence you right now to help you get what you want, or you can have some beautiful new beginnings in your relationships by being more open to what other people have to say. And I feel like it's going to only add to your wisdom as well with this wisdom card. I think you have a lot of wisdom and a lot of great ideas, but I think it will add to it, like I said. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing for you guys. I do want to pull maybe like one more advice card and then we'll wrap it up. So what spirit? Okay. The Hand. Interesting, because the Hand is also ruled by Gemini, and I was just talking about Jupiter and Gemini. So that Jupiter and Gemini transit might be really impacting you personally. So definitely something to look into. Okay, it says emotional expression, creative expression, generosity, and hospitality. So this is your advice. Openly expressing yourself creatively and emotionally, expressing your love and affection for others through gifts, offerings, and acts of service. You're welcoming and warm, making others feel comfortable and at home in your company, and you greatly enjoy companionship, generous with your time and skills. Yeah, so I feel like this eclipse is about you, again, letting others in, creating deeper connections with people, expressing yourself emotionally, expressing yourself creatively, like sharing your ideas with people, putting that out into the world in some kind of way. But then also, I really like that piece around generosity. And I think, again, Jupiter is a very generous planet. So it's something about like being generous in your communication, because Jupiter's in Gemini. So I'm willing to open up. I'm willing to share this idea with you. Or I'm willing to receive your feedback. I'm willing to have a great conversation or a deep conversation about this. And with Venus and Scorpio, there is a desire for depth at this time. So that is what I'm seeing for you guys. That is your advice. I hope that this makes sense and resonates for you. If it does, please let me know down below. Don't forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, next we have Taurus rising and sun. This Libra eclipse is taking place in your 6th house on October 2nd, and this is a new moon, which means it's a solar eclipse with a south node. So you guys, I definitely feel like with a new moon in the 6th, you are having some kind of beautiful new beginning within your work, and I feel like you might be overcoming something here in regards to your work. So if you have felt maybe uncertain about your path or lacking confidence in something, or if you have felt like you haven't put maybe much time or effort into something, within your work, I can definitely see you guys overcoming that and growing in your willpower and your consistency and your discipline within something that you have an interest in. And this doesn't have to just be like work as a career, because everyone's at different phases of their life, but think about something that you want to accomplish, that you want to put time into. I see you guys really feeling like you are making strides with that, and I definitely feel like you're getting a creative spark back that maybe you felt like went on a hiatus, or maybe you felt like you had things getting in the way of it. Maybe, extra responsibilities or things that weighed you down, or things on your mind, and just things that take time and energy away from kind of the imagination and the passion and the excitement about the thing that you want to do. And with this sheep card, this talks about innocence, gentleness, and appreciation. The sheep reminds me a lot of kind of like a fresh start in a way. It's interesting because I just had a reading with somebody where this came up, and there's so many cards in this deck. But yeah, the sheep feels I think the innocence piece is important. It's almost like something is getting a fresh start, a reboot, and it's coming from a place of like purity or innocence, or like clean eyes. And so there's something going on within your career. If you felt kind of tired, or again lacking inspiration, or bogged down, or really imbalanced in this area of your life, I could see you kind of coming into a fresh start, that clean slate, where you feel good and inspired again about what you're doing, and you're moving forward really quickly. I definitely see that with the Chariot. Like, you are making important decisions, and you're feeling, clear around those decisions. Yeah, I think the sheep also reminds me, when I pulled this card, I was like, you know what? The sheep is a very useful animal, right? Like the wool of the sheep is something that we use all the time to keep warm, and we don't even have to kill, a sheep to get that. We can have the sheep continue to live their life and produce wool for us, and create a resource for us as people. And it's like this kind of thing that keeps on giving. I don't know, there's something around that really stood out to me when I pulled this card. And I think that really aligns with you as a Taurus. And as this eclipse is in the 6th, there is almost like this kind of recycling of energy, or planting like this person has like a fruit thing in her hair. It reminds me of that, where it's like you plant a fruit tree, you water it, you put a lot of effort, and then it starts to kind of sustain. And that's a Taurus theme, is sustaining or maintaining something. And sometimes the beautiful thing about nature is that, you have to do a lot of the work to sustain something at first. And then if the conditions are right, obviously, the environment can start to sustain that thing on its own. So like you'll see for perennials, you'll have these plants, or some maybe things that you fruits or whatever you planted last year pop up again, or a tree that you don't even have to water because it rains, produces maybe fruit every year. And there's a sense of, I put in energy into something, and it's growing into something that gives back to me kind of continuously, and it's very useful. And that is, I feel like, something that is a message here. And I don't know if that means that that's your advice, or that's something that you're working on, or that you can, encourage yourself by the fact that you're going to have that as a result of all this effort. But there's something here where I feel like whatever you're creating has not just longevity, but again, this sustaining usefulness in your life. And it goes probably beyond just, oh, I'm feeling really inspired to work on this thing today. It will bear fruit and kind of repopulate itself. And maybe you would even create a community or an environment or something that will help sustain whatever this thing is, so it doesn't require that constant effort and maintenance on your own. I think that's a message here for some of you. You guys have this eclipse squaring Mars and Cancer in the third. So yeah, I don't know. You did get this Strength card in reverse, and this is a card that represents kind of like a lack of self-belief. If we think about inner strength, we think about courage, we think about self-belief, self-esteem, building ourselves up, moving forward, even if we have fears. And when it's in reverse, it can feel like those fears get a hold of us, that we have the doubts creep into our head, or we feel like we're not good enough. And this card was next to the Lover. So some of you could even feel like at times that influence of other people's opinions could kind of get in your head. But the Strength in reverse, to me, I think mirrors the square to Mars and Cancer in the third, where you might get in your own head about things. You might feel, again, anxious or insecure or have self-doubt, because the third house is all about our mind. And Mars in Cancer is like, Mars is a protective planet. It wants to keep us safe. Cancer is a very emotional sign that's very subjective and influenced by our beliefs and perception, even if it's not real or truthful. And so all these things kind of combine is like, you could have these thoughts or even communication or conversations with people that are maybe not super grounded into reality, but you are kind of like believing them. So it's like having the thought of, oh, I couldn't do that, or I'm not good enough for that, or whatever it is, or I'm behind in life, or whatever it is, that could that chatter could get in the way at this time. But I feel like with this ending with the Lover's card, there's a couple messages here. One of them is that this thing that you're working on, it feels like a soulmate. Like whatever you are inspired by, that you're putting effort into or going to put effort into, is a match for you. So even though you may at times lack courage or have doubt in yourself, it doesn't change the fact that it feels right, and you will be able to continue forward anyway, because you will feel like it's right. And when something feels right, it's really hard to just walk away from that, even when you are uncertain of yourself. Once you start investing into it, it's hard to walk away. And that's why I think that there's something here around like this thing being self-sustaining in a way after a certain period of time, and kind of encouraging you, like, don't give up before you get to that point. The ruler of this moon, which is Venus, of this eclipse, is in your 7th house of relationships. So there's definitely something here around partnerships, relationships, how they play a role in your work, how they influence your self-belief, or in a positive or negative way. And and this Venus is in a grand trine with Saturn in your 11th and Mars in your 3rd. So there's definitely a lot of influence here, because these are some of the most social, communicative, like, let's share ideas, let's brainstorm, let's come together, work together, let's network. Those are common themes of these houses. So, and I did pull the neuron, and the neuron, I'm sure you guys know, all these neurons are firing and communicating together. What fires together wires together, they say. So there's something here around really like being mindful of your influence, of who is around you, and aligning that with the person that you want to become. Because just like when you think the same thought over and over again, you're firing that neuron and you're wiring it, and you're kind of embedding that into your brain and making that like a highway that you cross a lot in your brain. where you keep thinking those same thoughts, that's the same for the people that are around you. They can affirm more of the same, or they can influence you to build you up, to make you something bigger, to make you something better. There's this power in community. This is a Libra eclipse, which is, of course, about relationships as a Venus ruled sign. So, and you do have the Lovers here. So there's a really strong emphasis on community, friendship, connections, and their influence on you and your ability to believe in yourself and achieve something. And maybe even feed off of people in a positive sense with this creative energy, feeling inspired by the people around you. So that would be the positive side of this. Obviously, the negative side of this would be being around people who like let you down or pull you down. And so it's helpful to ask, like, is my influence an expander or a contractor? And this doesn't just have to be personal relationships. This can be people that you view their content online, the things that you listen to or the things that you read. Those are absolutely this kind of Mars and Cancer in the third house of, I watched that video and now I'm emotionally affected and now it's getting into my brain and either uplifting me or detracting, contracting. So yeah, I definitely would be really mindful of what you are allowing in terms of media, feedback, relationships, opinions, all those kinds of things. And that seems, I feel like this is like a reoccurring message for you, Taurus. I don't know if it is, but yeah. But there's something here where I feel like you have a lot of potential to really make some massive headway or progress on a goal. And you have, this is definitely in alignment with you. And I think you will draw in the right people into your life if you are focused on what it is that you're trying to achieve instead of maybe some insecurities around your fears around it. So let me pull one more card as advice. So Spirit, what's your advice for Taurus? Okay. We have the Sun card. So the Sun in astrology is very much related to your career, your purpose, shining your gifts, shining your light, making yourself visible out in the world, having confidence, believing in yourself. And it's like a really healthy sense of ego and sense of separation, because if we don't have an ego, if we don't have a separate self, what can we possibly do with our lives, right? Like we would just be influenced by what everyone else says and all that. So there is something about the Sun where it knows it's really good. It is a leader. It isn't just a closed circuit, but ultimately the Sun does understand that it's the leader of its own life. And so I think that this is an important message to embrace your inner confidence, your creative spark, your natural talents and gifts, and to have a healthy dose of cooperation or collaboration, as well as separation and individuation. So that is the message for you, my beautiful Taurus. If this resonates, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, I'm going to say of Gemini rising and sun. This Libra solar eclipse on October 2nd is taking place in your 5th house. And yeah, I have quite a few messages. The 5th house is, whenever we have an eclipse here, it's a time for us to really feel like we are like tapping into our positive side. We are doing things that bring us joy. We are feeling optimistic about things. And it's funny because I pulled the Sun, and if you know, in modern astrology, sometimes they will relate the Sun to the 5th house. So there is this energy here of, and for some of you who want to get pregnant, there are a few cards here that do indicate that that's a potential. A new moon eclipse in the 5th house could definitely indicate that. So if that is something that you're looking for, that is possible. But in general, the Sun is about illumination, clarity, truth, happiness. What happens when the sun comes out? The birds are chirping, the flowers are blooming, things are growing, things are warm, there's vitality. So that's the kind of energy that you're trying to bring into your life during this eclipse. And so it could feel like you're turning over a new leaf in a way. I really feel like this eclipse is going to be a reset for many of us. And Libra is all about cultivating harmony and balance. And so if there I think that whatever happens during this eclipse, if there is a fated conversation or something that comes up with somebody or something that happens in your life at this time, it's trying to get you to create more of a sense of peace in your life and contentment. And not just contentment, but like joy, right? Where you're feeling like you're excited about what's coming up in your life. And if you've been feeling a little bit down, or if you've been having certain things that maybe have felt like they've weighed on you in certain ways, I can see this eclipse really kind of taking away that fog or that darkness or that cloud and illuminating things again. And again, this could look like I was confused. Now I'm clear on where I want to go. This relationship there was some issues with it, and now we've kind of cleared the air. I felt sad about something from the past, and now I've decided to forgive and let go. And there is really strong advice here around that with these two advice cards, forgiveness and compassion. Kuan Yin is one of my favorite goddesses because her messages are just so gentle and just so much about promoting like a lot of understanding and compassion. And again, I just want to say gentleness like 3 times in a row. It's just so much like, yeah, it's like somebody handling you with care, but the God is teaching you to do that with yourself. And with the forgiveness card, there could be things from the past or from how other people have influenced you or affected you. This is a Libra eclipse, very relational oriented eclipse. There could be things that have happened in your past that you maybe need to let go of or be okay with by forgiving that person or forgiving yourself in a situation as well, and having compassion with yourself or compassion with others. And that is what I think creates that lightness of the 5th house, that lightness of the heart and of our joy. And it returns us to more of that childlike energy. And typically on the sun card, there is like a kid or a baby on a horse. This one is obviously not like that, but there's something I think that we're trying to return to, some level of like having a feeling of lightness that children have. And so there's something here around that optimism. This eclipse is also squaring Mars in Cancer, which is in your 2nd house. And for everybody, I've been pulling an animal card, and I just thought it was so funny that I pulled the crab for you guys, because if you know, Cancer is obviously the sign of the crab. And on this card, it says modesty, self-sufficiency, and circumvention. And I also felt like this was super fitting for Mars and Cancer in the 2nd house, because the 2nd house is all about self-sufficiency. That's like literally one of the main words for the 2nd house. And with this eclipse squaring Mars in Cancer, there could be a message here around how sometimes doing things so much on your own, or maybe keeping the cards close to your chest, maybe not being vulnerable or not asking for more help, how that could actually deter you from some of this joy and, positive experience that you can have with this eclipse being in the 5th house, which is a relational house, especially when it comes to dating people as well. But this card is also just speaking to how like financially things could feel they could feel like finances could be a place where things might feel like it gets in the way a little bit. So how true this is or not is going to depend, because Mars is very subjective in the sign of Cancer. So we can make very emotionally based decisions, but we might actually have money for something, for example, but we might feel like we don't. Another thing is there is this desire for, just like kind of hoarding a little bit, or like holding on, or self-preservation. Like, I need to save, I need to be sufficient, it says modesty, but for me, there's almost like this sense of like caution, with modesty of like, I want to make wise decisions with my money or the things that I have in order to protect myself. This Mars in Cancer. So I'm excited to talk about all this in a later video with Mars retrograding in the sign of Cancer. But this whole topic around money and your relationship with it and what it's doing in your life is definitely going to come up a lot in the next many months, actually. So really, I feel like some of the themes that come up now are going to be highlighted all the way until May. I mean, maybe a little bit, not all the way to May, but yeah, I'd have to look at the transits again, but almost till May of next year, which is kind of insane to think about. So if you're having some things come up around this eclipse around money or around self-sufficiency or around making decisions in regards to spending money or buying things or, you know, your emotions around it, I would really journal about that. And I would go a little bit deeper to see the emotional impact or underpinnings behind things so that you can maybe reflect on where there might be some subjectivity, some bias that you have. Okay. So yeah, I think that ultimately Mars in the second it's acting as a point of tension. Yes, we need to have money. Yes, we need to be self-sufficient. But when things become skewed or when we become emotional around certain decisions in regards to those things, we can go into overdrive and overdo it or over worry about it. And that can influence us to in a way that takes us away from the joy that is meant to come to us in the fifth house. So this eclipse is trying to remind you to not do that, to overcome that in a way that could look like relying more on other people, asking for favors or putting yourself out there more in some kind of way, or just trying to use more logic to kind of counteract some of the Mars and Cancer energy, using some Capricorn planning and logic and future thinking to make important money decisions rather than just your intuition or just your emotions. And yeah, I really see that with this grounding card. Like there's a need to focus on things that are also practical to ease this Mars, so that Mars is satisfied, that you are meeting that Mars's needs, which is a desire for security and self-sufficiency. So it's like, how can we make really practical plans and decisions in order to cultivate that feeling so that we don't make reactive and impulsive decisions with Mars and Cancer that ultimately take away from our sense of well-being and happiness, because maybe we prevent ourselves from doing something that's really would bring us a lot of joy, or maybe we just are really stressed about money and so it disrupts our sense of joy and stability. So whatever that looks like for you, it's like, how can we work towards stability and use that to increase our sense of happiness in life, rather than use it as a distraction that takes us away from that alignment. So Venus is the ruler of this eclipse, and it's in the 6th house, and it's in Scorpio. So there is definitely a focus here on work to some degree. And so some of the things that bring you joy, this is an eclipse in the 5th house, like what brings you joy, I think we can also relate that back to Venus in the 6th house, which is, what are you doing every day? Because usually people are working almost every day. So, it's like, what are you choosing to be responsible for? Like, what are you choosing to do for work? Do you like what you do every day for work? Do you like the things that you have to take care of? And this doesn't have to be a job in a traditional sense. It could be any level of responsibility. But I mean, we're humans and we pretty much can decide how our lives go and like what we decide to do. So, if you're not liking what you're doing, this eclipse is like, what is your heart telling you? Can you make little adjustments? It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but could you make little adjustments to feel like you are in a better emotional place, to feel that you are following more of what brings you joy or expands you in some kind of way. And again, this, well, I don't know if I said this, so maybe not again, but this Venus is in a grand water trine with Mars in the second and Saturn in the 10th. So again, really heavy focus here on all things material reality, career, finances, and our job. Like 10th house career is more about our place in the world and our impact on the world and what we can do long term. Whereas 6th house is like, what am I doing right now to make money, or what am I just responsible for in my day-to-day life? And so there's something here where I feel like you guys can be really using your imagination and your creativity with this Page of Cups, Page of Wands. It's almost like you guys, this is a time where you can be explorers. The Page of Cups and Page of Wands are initiators. They're just starting out on some kind of journey. They have, a lot of, they have a lot of like excitement about life and a lot of this feeling of potentiality and possibility. And these cards are both also potentially linked to pregnancy. So again, if that's something that you're wanting, that is potentially possible for you. But there is a sense of like idealism with the Page of Cups, and then this kind of like free-spirited optimism with the Page of Wands, that it's like I'm going on my path and I'm following my intuition and my creative inspiration. And from this place, I'm going to try to like create the perfect kind of, honestly, work life, because a lot of this is, again, work related, like doing stuff that really makes me feel super excited when I get up in the morning. And we have this Judgment card as the last tarot. And the Judgment is a card that it's funny because when Judgment comes up, forgiveness also comes up, because judgment, we're passing judgment on ourselves. So I think it's interesting that both these cards came up. There's definitely some strong theme here that you need to forgive yourself or somebody else in your life to create and have that compassion in order to actually make the right decisions or to create that levity in your heart. So yeah, there's something here with that. But then also, so you don't want to judge your path. Like if you are on a certain path and it doesn't totally light you up, or you're not really that excited about it, or something feels off, definitely we don't want to judge ourselves for past decisions. And that can also be a Mars and Cancer theme, especially when it goes retrograde. All these things from the past come up and we're like, did I even make the right decision? I don't know. So the Judgment is like, no, we have to trust that we made the right decisions up till now. We can't, not that you can't question yourself, but there's no point in judging your journey. And so the Judgment card ultimately is about making important decisions, having massive awakenings, or like an evaluation of where you're at in your life. It's a big card. It's a major arcana. So there's a sense of like, I'm seeing something that I haven't seen before about myself, or I'm making an important decision that alters the course of my life. So the Judgment has a lot of weight to it, and I think a lot of different meanings in your reading. But I think ultimately it is about having compassion for your past self and your whole journey, being willing to explore what brings you joy, and then committing to making a big kind of decision around your path and your journey, even if it might seem small, because sometimes small decisions are like that one step forward actually leads to this whole path unfolding. That's kind of how I anticipate this being for you guys. So that's what I see for you. But let me pull one advice card for you, my Geminis, since I have been doing that for everybody else. Any advice for Geminis? Spirit, any advice? We have the uterus. Okay. So it's funny because a friend of mine, I'm a Gemini sun, a friend of mine just pulled this card for me the other day. Okay. Possibility, abundance, safety and protection, and creative expression. Okay. All these things really fit the reading and really fit the 5th house as well, with the creative expression and possibility, and then the abundance with the 2nd house, and safety and protection with the Mars in the 2nd house. Okay, it says an opportunity to embrace your creative side from a place of safety, comfort, and abundance. So this is your advice. Expressing yourself through creativity and innovation will allow you to further develop your sense of self, release any pent-up emotions, process past events, and form deeper connections with others. Make the most of your creative freedom at this time. I love that. And that could even mean that like you take up a creative hobby as well, because the fifth house is definitely a hobby oriented house. So, and a creative house as well. So, there might be a need for you to take up some kind of creative hobby as an outlet. That's just kind of a side message. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Gemini. If that resonates, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, I'm next to have Cancer, Rising, and Sun. This Libra solar eclipse is happening on October 2nd in your 4th house. So, what can you expect from this eclipse? Well, I want to start off with the Elephant card because this card really mirrors what it's like to have an eclipse in the 4th house. This card talks a lot about wanting the desire for harmony within one's family, one's herd. And that's exactly what a Libra 4th house eclipse is all about. It's creating a sense of peace, a new, fresh start emotionally within your family, within your place of living, within your physical environment, your roommates, your state or country. There's a sense of, like belonging, but peaceful belonging, harmony with others. And one of the things that really stood out to me about the elephant is just how powerful they are, but yet also how gentle they are. And they have so much wisdom, such great memories. There could be stuff that comes up from the past, especially because this eclipse is conjunct the South Node, which tends to bring up things from the past, as well as the 4th house can do that too. So there couldn't be this like remembrance or things from our history or our family or ancestry that can come back up, and we can have wisdom from even previous lives come back up at this eclipse to help guide us through circumstances going on right now. And this eclipse might feel a little bit more intense for you guys because this eclipse is squaring Mars, which is in Cancer, in your sign, in your 1st house, if you have this as your rising. So basically this eclipse is making this hard aspect to your sign, and there's something that you have to kind of maybe reinvent about yourself with this time at this time. And I definitely see that with your advice cards. I got the Death and Magic and Sacred Unity, which we'll talk about later. But this card came out in reverse, which does indicate that there's something that you need to let go of, but fear might be influencing your decisions to let go of it. And if you've already made the decision to let go of it, the next step with this card is, how can I find the magic in that process of letting go? And anytime we reinvent ourselves or transform ourselves, there is that process of death and decay and then rebuilding. And so this eclipse, I feel like ultimately, in order for you to create this kind of peaceful environment with the ones that you love, to feel like you're really living in your wisdom, like the elephant is, this kind of sage that has a lot of power but doesn't use it, doesn't abuse it, doesn't try to enforce things on people or fight back. It's like the elephant, no one can touch the elephant. It's literally the biggest animal. And so there's something about that where it's like this massive powerhouse but gentle giant that's really wise and connected to spirit and to their loved ones, and who will protect their loved ones with that ferocity if they need to, but they don't just randomly engage and waste their energy on superfluous things that are just distracting or unnecessary or tedious. So there's something about that where it's like I feel like this eclipse is helping you really come into your power and your wisdom and your strength and your spiritual connection in order to create this sense of peace in your life and stability in your life. And you will protect that peace, but you also don't need to fight. And I think that there's something about that right now with this eclipse being in Libra, which is a sign of the peacekeeper, but squaring Mars, which is a sign, which is a planet of the fighter. So there's something about that kind of discord here where you guys might be, you might be a little bit more fired up. Mars is in your first house. You might be a little bit more frustrated, irritable, ready to kind of pop off or make a break in a situation and you know, run from it. And in that sense, I think with the death card, the death and magic card, I think there is something that you're meant to break from. So that makes sense because Mars is a planet of separation endings. So yes, that makes sense. But I think it doesn't have to be the kind of the dramatics that Mars can sometimes bring with it. You know, you can have a peaceful resolution. And after this death and magic, we had the sacred unity as your advice card. So it definitely feels like to me, leaving this thing is actually going to bring you much closer to spirit. And this card just gives me a sense of peace and prosperity and acceptance and surrender and wisdom and understanding and listening to one's intuition and feeling even more connected as a result of that. And so I feel like you guys are going to be able to just let go instead of like the whole kind of tug of war, and then I'm going to let go, you know? That's the advice here, I think, is to embody that slow and steady wisdom and strength of the elephant, that is like a protector of its peace and is it's gentle in its behavior with others, with their family, with themselves. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like the overarching message here. But you guys, again, are going through a phase of reinvention with Mars being in your first, and with this eclipse squaring that planet. So yeah. Okay, so the ruler of this eclipse is Venus. Venus is in your fifth house, and it's trining your Mars. So it's in this grand water trine. Venus in the fifth in Scorpio, trining Mars in the first in Cancer, and then trining Saturn and Pisces in the ninth. So fifth, first, and ninth house to me have a lot to deal with how we kind of like build ourselves up. We believe in ourselves. We want something. We desire something. We have faith that we can have something, or we have faith in the universe. We feel inspired or optimistic about things in life. So this eclipse, I feel like, is ultimately trying to create that for you. And I really feel like there's good energy here, even though it might initially feel a little uncomfortable. There is definitely overall very positive energy here. We start off your reading with the Ace of Cups. And so to me, this is someone overflowing with emotion, feeling things really, really deeply. And the opportunity as well to create kind of an emotional reset, which makes sense with an eclipse in the fourth house. The fourth house is where the fourth, eighth, and 12th, to some degree, we store a lot of emotions in them. But the fourth is the most emotional. It's our roots. It's how we were formed by our family, and all of our emotions and our heart are tied up in that. And so I think that this is like a new beginning emotionally for you, a time to release things, to reinvent yourself by not being kind of attached to things that maybe destabilize you emotionally, and again, coming to that strength and the power, but yet gentleness of the elephant archetype. After that, I have the Five of Pentacles and Hanged Man in reverse. So this are really great cards to have in reverse. And to me, this is a sign of things ending that felt really stagnant, that kept you stuck, or maybe in a cycle of repeating where your soul felt like maybe it wasn't evolving or moving forward in certain ways. And then the Five of Pentacles is somebody who maybe kept meeting disappointing endings with things, or not endings, but like outcomes, and maybe feeling like a sense of financial lack or scarcity mentality, or feeling like you weren't getting what you needed out of something, monetarily, emotionally, physically, like any kind of way. So there's a sense of like lack and stagnation, or not moving forward and consistently kind of meeting that. And with these cards in reverse, you are coming out of that. This eclipse is signaling the beginning of a cycle of stability for you, of meeting your needs. The fourth house, again, emotions, Emotions are what we use as an indicator to meet our needs. It's like it's our compass. So you're creating financial stability, which is again fourth house, this kind of peacefulness within your home, this sense of what was it? This the sense of feeling fulfilled emotionally, like you are not just stable, but you again have your needs met. So that feeds into stability and creates that system in your life. So yeah, I really feel like you're coming out of this kind of desert phase and lack of progress phase. And in order to create that progress that you're looking for in any area of your life, you have to feel really stable. And I think that this eclipse is ultimately going to bring that to you. With Venus again in the fifth house, this is a romantic house. It's a lot about dating, but it's also a lot about just like the heart, feeling good about where you're at in life, feeling maybe connected to your children if you have children, connected to your purpose or your passions, doing your hobbies, going on the trips that you like to go on. It's like whatever kind of like checks that box for you, scratches that itch for you in terms of what makes you feel fulfilled. That is Venus in the sixth. The fifth. And so I see that the ultimate journey of this eclipse for you is to create like greater satisfaction in life, but a lot of stability as well. So it's like I'm secure. I feel really good about where I'm living. I feel good about my home. I feel good about my environment. I feel like things are moving again. I'm making maybe more money again. And from here, we have the Lovers. And it's like, okay, from here, what if I met somebody randomly? Like, what if I just like met my next soulmate? Or what if I had relationship tension? What if I now feel like I am able to resolve that? Or if I've been in a disconnect with myself, this is a time where you are reinventing yourself. The Lovers can indicate this kind of partnership with yourself where you're filling yourself up with love, where you are again meeting your needs, you are overflowing with emotions in a positive way. So this was a card to start and to end the reading. So this is definitely a time where you are meant to be emotionally satisfied and to build yourself up in a really beautiful way. But you first have to be willing to go through the reinvention process, which does involve letting something go. And trust me, you're going to feel so good once you do that, because you're going to come into such divine wisdom and get out of the stagnant, stuck energy that you might have felt frustrated in. So I'm really excited about this for you guys. What is your advice, Spirit, for my Cancers? What's your advice for Cancer? Oh, usually I just want one, but two did come out for you. So we have the brain and the pancreas. Interesting. So I know that the pancreas is involved in insulin production and blood sugar management. So very Venusian in nature. Libra also rules over kind of the blood sugar balance in our body. And there's something about like the sweetness of life that feels relevant here, and like how much we're able to like let the good in. That feels relevant. Okay. Let's see what this deck says so about the pancreas. And again, this is your advice. So for me, part of this would be to like, so if I'm understanding correctly, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but insulin sort of acts in this way where it unlocks the cells so that the sugar can get into the cells and feed the cells. And so when we have like insulin resistance and stuff, we can have trouble with that process of unlocking, like opening the key to the cell. So there's something here that I feel like is relevant before I read the card, where it's like finding the key to like letting the good in, like opening the door to, but there's something in that process where again the pancreas is producing the insulin. So it's like there can be things in our life that create the right environment to cultivate the feelings of that sweetness, that feeling of love, that feeling of connection to ourselves. And these could be really simple things like playing the piano in the evening, listening to classical music, going for a walk with a friend, watching the sunset, listening to the crickets at night with your window open. All these kinds of little things in our life that are very kind of Taurus Venusian in nature, very simple, could be like the keys that unlock that sense of sweetness in our life and that love that we have for ourselves and the way that we nourish ourselves and meet our needs in these small but powerful ways, because they really do add up. So I feel like that's part of the advice here, is to tune into that. The deck says insecurity, low self-esteem, and compulsive behaviors. Relying on addictive behaviors or self-destructive behaviors to disengage from emotions or to reinforce negative self-talk. So this is like your advice is to not do that, basically. Perpetuating an unwarranted feeling of unworthiness and low self-esteem. Yeah, this is what the Lovers card to me was. It's like you guys are coming into a strong relationship with yourself, and that indicates like feeling that you are worthy, feeling like you are building yourself up in a really beautiful way and believing in yourself, and not relying on not trying to rely on unhealthy patterns to let that sweetness in. So like not just eating a bunch of sugar to feel, and this is a very Venus Libra thing that happens, and why people with strong Libra can have, insulin resistance, is because they have a sweet tooth and they will want that sweetness in their life in all capacities. And if they're not getting it in relationships, they might look for it in food. And so that's just an example of how we can look for, to feel good through unhealthy mechanisms. And so the advice is to do that through healthy mechanisms. Don't allow yourself to indulge and give credence to your loud inner critic, or you will find yourself stuck in a self-destructive cycle. Yeah, I definitely feel like this plays into the Lovers card, where it wants you to build yourself up positively. This could be, again, like a daily journal practice where you are thinking about or writing down 5 things that you did well that day, that are good about the decisions that you made, or whatever it is that's about the self that helps kind of reinforce how much you believe in yourself and love yourself. Okay. The next advice card we have is the brain: creativity, imagination, knowledge, intellect, and logic. Inspiration has struck and you are bursting with ideas. You're feeling creative, ambitious, and motivated with a clear vision. You have committed to learning and expanding your knowledge base, and now is a time to apply and build everything you've learned to achieve your goals. So this is just a totally other random piece of advice, but I feel like this card is saying like, you know enough. You know enough about something. You're ready to go with something. You've learned enough about something. This seems like it's the time to apply it. And that could also relate to the 5 Pentacles in reverse and Hangman in reverse. It's like getting out of your own way, realizing that you can, like, you're ready with this Hangman in reverse. You're ready to get moving. You're ready to, get clients. You're ready to put yourself out there with something. Like you're skilled at it. You know what you want with it. And the 5 Pentacles in reverse indicates that you can receive money from this. And it could be something that gets you out of a cycle of maybe scarcity in some type of way. So this card is saying green lights all the way. Trust your brain. You already know enough. You don't have to cram even more in there to be worthy. You got this. So that is your advice, Cancer. I hope that this resonates. If it does, please let me know down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Leo rising and sun. This Libra solar eclipse is happening on October 2nd in your 3rd house. And I really feel like this is a time for you guys to have a beautiful reset. I think that's the case for a lot of us, but you guys, especially with the cards that are coming out, I think that you guys have been maybe going through some stuff. And with this eclipse happening in your 3rd house, it is giving you some kind of psychological reset where your brain is going to be working a little bit more in your favor, and you're going to be able to let go of some of the things that maybe have been somewhat challenging for you in these maybe past couple months or even past couple of weeks. And so I really feel like, especially because this is a Libra eclipse, which is about harmony and balance and peace, and it's with the South Node, which is about release and letting go. I can just see almost just like getting rid of baggage. And there is, yeah, there's quite a bit I want to say with this. But with the eclipse squaring Mars in the 12th, there is again some process of letting go that's happening here. Wherever Mars is in Cancer right now, and wherever Mars is basically indicating where we're having like a more kind of emotional response to something, where we're trying to maybe protect ourselves or, save ourselves and preserve ourselves, and we can have kind of emotional reactions to things. But this is in the 12th house, which is a house of the subconscious, of the things that we cannot see, of the things that haunt us in our dreams, the things that are from our past that emotionally and energetically carry with us, regardless of whether we want them to or not. And so with this eclipse squaring Mars, I do think that there is a process here of needing to kind of have a break from the past. And I asked Spirit what your main card was, and we got the Fool with this puffin. I don't know a lot about puffins, but with the Fool, there is that sense of a brand new start, a brand new beginning, jumping headfirst into something in your life and starting to invest more of your thoughts, more of your energy into planning for the future, for the things that are exciting to you, that are developing in your life, rather than focusing on the things that you've lost or the things that were difficult or the things that made you suffer in some way. And I'm seeing that this overcoming energy with the Five of Cups and Five of Pentacles in reverse. The Five of Cups is, when it's in reverse, is a card about moving on, having forgiveness, accepting what's happened, and being able to let go of maybe difficult emotions surrounding past experiences, where you might be grieving something, or you might have regret around something, or you might feel frustrated around something still. And this Five of Cups in reverse is you just releasing that emotional baggage, accepting how things are, and moving forward with your life. The Five of Pentacles in reverse is also talking about this, but from a financial perspective, where you're able to recover from financial loss. You're able to recover from material reality not really living up to certain needs or expectations that you had in your life. And this doesn't just have to be financially, but it can be the way that people showed up and supported you or didn't support you, or whatever. But whatever it is, there's a sense of lack that you are overcoming with the Five Pentacles in reverse. You are realizing that there's more abundance, that there's more out there, that you can recover and rebuild and be even stronger than before. So, and fives are cards or a number of change. And with two of them coming out, it's like the changes that have happened recently may have been hard, but they're setting you up for success, to have this kind of, again, new start in your life. And with this Creative Spark card, I feel like you going through these experiences and maybe having some level of despair or whatever you went through is going to, and probably has already been, igniting a creative spark within you. And Leos tend to be very musically oriented. Maybe they like music, or, they play music, or it doesn't have to be music, but I just see that a lot. But maybe there's something where you feel inspired by, where you're able to start creating something out of those emotions, making art with it, making something to kind of express how you really feel. And this will further kind of wipe the slate clean, because you are going to be doing something and moving the energy that's been maybe a little bit bottled up or tense within you. It's like, no, I'm fully releasing it. But I'm not ignoring it. I'm letting it out through my expression, through my creativity, and this is allowing me to have this kind of cathartic experience. So the ruler of this moon, Venus, is in your 4th house right now, and it's making this grand water trine, which is just a triangle, with Mars in Cancer in the 12th, and then Saturn and Pisces in the 8th. So very emotional houses. These are kind of the core of our emotional centers and what impacts us, especially the 4th house, which is where Venus is. So you guys might be really reflecting right now on, again, things of the past or things that bring up emotions within you. But you could also be reflecting on, like what's my plan, especially when it concerns fourth house topics, which could be about saving money or finding the right place to live or doing something to redecorate your home or improve your home or improve your relationships with your family members or the people that you live with. But that kind of like rootedness, that solid foundation, those are things that I think you are likely kind of revamping right now as a result of this eclipse. And maybe with those, Five of Cups and Five Pentacles in reverse, maybe this was an area of your life that had a breakdown or a change within it. So maybe you moved houses, or you had a falling out with somebody in your family, or you felt like you spent a bunch of money, and now is your time to rebuild. Now is a time to get focused and get clarity on what's next for you. So I'm seeing kind of two layers to this eclipse. One is a very emotional and cathartic release and letting go of the past and moving on, accepting how reality is. And then the other is very logical. It's like, what's my plan? What are my next steps? This is an eclipse in the third house, right? So it's like getting your head on straight and thinking about the long term and how you can create some kind of like a solid foundation in your life. Maybe find a place to live or save money or whatever that looks like for you. And with this eclipse being in the third and squaring Mars, one of the potentialities here is to kind of like disperse one's energy and to, I guess just Mars is a very kind of reactive planet, especially in the sign of Cancer. Doesn't really like to be in the sign of Cancer. And it's just coming from a very emotional, sensitive place. And so it's like you can make emotional decisions and follow whims rather than necessarily listening to what is really practical and logical and right for you at this time. So I think the antidote to this is more of the Capricorn energy of thinking about long-term effects of things, what would suit you in the next 5 to 10 years, and making decisions from that place. But I really feel like you guys might kind of be experiencing a little bit of like analysis paralysis or anxiety around having maybe too many options or not having like clarity around what you're looking for, basically. And so that might come up around this eclipse because Libra is, it can give you a lot of insight. It's an air sign, so it can indicate having a great idea or having clarity around your next steps and directions, especially since this is an eclipse in the third house. However, Libra is also an indecisive sign. It sees all the options, all the sides, all the variabilities, all the paths, and that might be something that you're experiencing and feeling a little overwhelmed by. So ultimately, I feel like this is a time for you to focus, and that's the advice card that I pulled here for you. Is this eclipse is kind of giving you a lot of options, and this is your opportunity to really tune into your heart with Venus being in the fourth, really connecting to your feelings and understanding yourself and your needs and thinking about that in the long term and in the practical and stable sense as well. And then making a conclusion to focus on maybe one or two things at this time. The focus is super, super important because if you stay in this limbo of maybe not deciding things and leaving them up in the air, I don't think that's going to suit you. With Venus in the fourth, I think you need some kind of foundation. You need a home. You need a job. You need to save money. It's like, I think having things in flux is not going to suit you. And, focusing, what was I going to say? I just totally lost it. But yeah, so I think ultimately the goal here is to gain clarity around what your next steps are and put your energy into, again, maybe one thing or two things so that you can really get your life kind of moving forward. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Leo. I hope that resonates. I hope that's helpful for you. Best of luck on your journey. I know that this looks a little bit like you've kind of come out of this maybe cloudy experience, but now I think that things are going to be clearing up for you a lot. And there's a lot of really beautiful things ahead. So you can trust the process, trust your intuition, but also make sure that you're using, logic, practicality, and thinking what's best for you long term. So if you enjoy this, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, share with your friends, and comment down below, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Virgo rising and sun. For you guys, this Libra solar eclipse on October 2nd is happening in your second house. And a new moon, or solar eclipse in this case, in the second house is really about a new kind of financial beginning for you. And this can have many different meanings. It doesn't just have to be that. But one of the things that can happen is you can start to, especially because this is in Libra, you can start to kind of assess your values, and see if you still value the same things, or if you want to spend money or time on things in the same way that you were doing before, or you could have some kind of reset in this area of your life. You could decide that you want to save money or spend money differently at this time. You can make an important purchase, or just have something come through that allows you to feel more abundant, especially because I'm noticing some pretty positive energy with this Libra eclipse overall. The second house is a very self-sufficient house. It's concerned with longevity and having the things that you need in order to feel safe and to succeed in life. This is talking about material reality, but also like our skills as well as our possessions. So I definitely feel like, I pulled what's your main card, what's your main energy, and I got the Caterpillar, which is the Four of Pentacles. Lots of messages came through with this card, but with this being the Four of Pentacles, to me this does indicate a time of trying to kind of come out of maybe scarcity mentality and into a time of feeling more abundant. And that could mean different things for different people, or that could look different for different people, where some people that might indicate that you are saving more in order to feel more abundant, so that you feel like you have more options, that you have more freedom, that you feel safer. And that creates that sense of abundance. I have money in the bank, I'm abundant. Or maybe for some of you, it's spending money in a different way and investing into something that's important for you because it will help your development, or it will give you a safe place to land, or it will whatever. So some other people, it could look like manifesting a new job or more pay, but there's a sense of trying to cultivate a greater abundance and security for oneself. And that's going to look, again, different for different people. If you're somebody who is very frugal, very scarcity mindset, that could look like actually being willing to spend your money for the first time. So again, different things for different people. The Caterpillar is also on the precipice of becoming the butterfly. So there is this idea of metamorphosis, of evolution, of transformation that I feel like my Virgos are on the verge of going through. And yeah, I am curious how this is going to be when the nodes move into different signs, because you will have the South Node in your sign. But anyway, so the Caterpillar, in many ways, it needs to kind of, there's just so many messages. So one of the things about the Caterpillar is that it has so many legs, and this is kind of a message here for my Virgos, is that you might have your hand in a lot of different pots. You might be kind of trying to accomplish a lot of things, or quite busy. Another thing is with the Caterpillar, they go through this process of metamorphosis, which means that they have to go into they're a whole being, but then they go into a chrysalis and really break down and become like liquid, and then they rebuild into the butterfly. So there is this process of solitude and deconstruction of your reality in order to emerge as a fully formed, different sense of self. And so I feel like Virgos are going through that right now, and part of their life is about to go through, or is going through, maybe periods of like more solitude and kind of going into the cocoon, preparing for the deconstruction of certain things of your life, or maybe you're in the process. I think everyone's going to be kind of a different place in their journey, but I definitely think that everybody as a Virgo is going to be going through some type of metamorphosis right now. And maybe it isn't quite the butterfly yet, but I definitely think that things are going to be picking up for my Virgos somewhat soon. This eclipse is squaring Mars in Cancer in the 11th house. And Mars is an indication of where we're having maybe some resistance around something, especially emotionally, where we might feel like there's some kind of strife or indecision or trouble moving forward with something. And for you, this is coming through the area of your either your relationships or your kind of goals and like your dreams and your aspirations and what you think you can have in your life. So some of us might be going through periods of uncertainty and again, kind of emotional ups and downs or confusion in regards to our connections with others, our sense of belonging, where we feel like we have a community or where we feel like we have support or don't have support. And this eclipse is trying to create some self-sufficiency. So it might be because I'm just getting like strong messages around solitude at the moment in certain ways. It's not going to translate into always being alone, but there's almost like there's a lot that's changing about you as a person, and I think it's important not to be super extroverted or super social or really like feeding off of others' energies when you are going through a deep evolution of your soul and of your identity, because it's almost like you won't have the energetic capacity to maintain both of those things. The evolution itself, the breaking things down and rebuilding of your body, it's like a process of reconfiguration and healing, and that takes energy. Like when you're sick, you rest. And there's that sense of that going on in your life right now. So if you want to kind of pull back, or if you've been a little bit more isolated, or if you're disengaging from being really focused on these big dreams and big goals or getting out there and making friends and all of this, if that's something that you're kind of pulling back from a little bit, and you're being a little bit maybe more independent and self-reliant and focusing on getting that back or just feeling really stable in your life, that's okay during this eclipse. And I think it's ultimately serving a purpose because you are changing so much. You are so in flux. And I think that the people around you and your goals and all those things are also going to change. So disengaging a little bit from that might actually benefit you, because it will help you not be so attached to exactly how your life is now and exactly who's around you now and exactly where you're headed now. And it will allow you to have a little bit more of like an open road. And this can have to deal with, again, when the South Node moves into your sign, I think you will be kind of letting certain things go that you are attached to. So I'm curious how that will manifest for you, but that's later on. So the ruler of this moon is Venus, and it's in the 3rd house in Scorpio, and it's making a trine to Mars 11th and a trine to Saturn in Pisces. So again, there's a lot of stuff going on here relationally at the time of this eclipse. And I feel like there's probably a lot within relationships that you are going through the caterpillar process with, that you are asking yourself, is this my person? Does this feel right for me? Especially with Saturn in the 7th, there is really like the test come to the relationship dynamics that you're in. And only the strongest will survive. Only the strongest relationships will survive a Saturn in the 7th house transit. If the foundation isn't there, if there were cracks underneath the surface, if there were doubts or things that you've ignored, all of those things get brought up during the Saturn transit to 7th, and it breaks the relationship. And it can also build the relationship up. If those things are strong enough, the adversity, the challenge, or whatever you go through with Saturn in the 7th can create closeness, can create that sense of bonding, because Saturn is also, it's a commitment planet. You're either committing to not be together or you're committing to be together for the long term. And so this transit and involved in this trine is indicating that there's a lot to be decided with Venus in the 3rd house in Scorpio. There's a lot to be figured out in terms of your relationships, in terms of the people in your life, and the sense of direction and who you see kind of going with you, or what kind of person you want to become and who you want to surround yourself with. And those questions, again, you kind of have to be a little bit more alone or internal in order to really connect with yourself to answer those questions. And so kind of disengaging a little bit from the relationships that you're in, taking a step back might actually be really good for you. Not totally, it doesn't mean you have to just like completely disconnect totally, but having some sense of solitude, I think, will really help. And yeah, I feel like there's something in your life where you might be kind of ready to give up the struggle. The Nine of Wands in reverse is a card of like retreating, not wanting to, like when it's upright, it's like, yes, I'm going to fight for this and I'm going to like hold on to exactly what this is. When it's in reverse, it's like, I don't want to persist. I don't have the capacity for this. I feel like I want a rest, and especially with the Four of Swords after this is like a recuperation. So this could be in relationships or another area of your life, but I see you guys like needing a soul rest, honestly, and a little disconnect, and focusing more on your money, your stability, your sense of self-worth, and your values, especially your values in relationships and what you're really looking for out of a partnership, out of a friendship, out of, relationship with family members or whoever it involves. And I really see that this reflection is going to help you come out on top. We do have the card that starts the reading is the Chariot. The card that ends the reading is the King of Wands. So I really feel like, well, one thing is that this might happen quite quickly. Like you're coming to a conclusion around something it might feel like it happens fast. That's possible for some of you. But the Chariot and the King of Wands, they have very extroverted energy. So to me, this is an indication that whatever is happening here with the caterpillar, this metamorphosis you're going through, is temporary. And you are bookended by these two, again, action-oriented, externalized cards that indicate having the ability to take control over your life, steer it in the direction that you want, and build up your energy and your confidence and your sense of self through your own willpower, through your discipline, through your commitment to your values and in your integrity. So if there's a person or a thing in your life that is out of alignment, I see you going inward at this eclipse, reflecting greatly on what you value and need in relationships, what you value and need for yourself, and how you can build yourself back up to be more of a leader in your own life, to feel like you have more autonomy or more control, more focus on yourself. And I think that's ultimately going to lead to success and charisma and finding people like being energetically very attracted to you. So I see a lot happening for you as a result of this experience. It might take some time, but I think that it's going to be worth it, even if it's initially a little bit uncomfortable. For your advice card, I pulled the Miracles card. So really, I feel like this is Spirit telling you that you might be in a phase right now where you are not certain of where things are going to go for you, or you might feel like you are praying for something, praying for a miracle. And this card, I think, is telling you that miracles are possible. So if you are feeling despair at any point, and you're wondering if you're ever going to be with somebody, or you're wondering if you're ever going to have good relationships with your friends, or if you're ever going to have a community to belong to, if you're ever going to achieve that goal that you have your sights set on, this is saying that you will become the butterfly. The caterpillar, I think, is really representative of miracles because it literally transforms into an insect that's like, has a bunch of legs and is just crawling everywhere, to something that can fly. Still an insect, but basically a completely different version of itself, and a limitless version of itself that can go anywhere it wants to go, that can fly, that doesn't have to take time to walk each leg forward. And so there's a sense of like massive transformation and breakthrough that's possible for you. And I think this Miracles card is trying to tell you that the version of yourself that you are now is only one limited stage, and you have so much more potential, and you are going to become the butterfly. It may take, years or however long it takes, but you have that possibility. So this card, I'm going to read what the deck says. It says, have you stopped believing in miracles? Do you think they're only for others, or doubt their existence? Could it be you've been reading and watching the news too often and find yourself feeling powerless and despondent? Or has the dry spell of your life gone on so long that you even stopped looking for water? Have no fear, for Mary has a message for you. This is all about your mindset. This moment is an opportunity to turn things around, and it begins with your thinking. What if you remembered that your repeated thoughts, feelings, and beliefs call the world into form? What if you recommitted to your creative partnership with the divine, and from there chose another way to experience life? You have the power of Mary, the mother of miracles, running through your veins. She did not need the seed of a man from outside to give birth to a miracle. In the same way, you don't need the outer world to change first. You don't need someone to rescue you. You don't need someone to love you. You don't need someone to take you away. You are the one you've been waiting for. Wow. You are the one you've been waiting for. And that's what I see with the Chariot and the King of Wands. That willpower, that strong inner drive to direct your life, to create your life, to manifest your life. It doesn't rely on other people. This is an eclipse in second house, self-sufficiency. Doesn't rely on other people, doesn't need other people to succeed. And that is part of the message here. Not that we always need people, but to some extent, obviously. But this is saying that that reliance on somebody emotionally or whatever you might have put into it, it's like you don't actually need them as much as you thought you did. You need only to choose how you will respond to your current reality and focus on a day at a time in service to the miracle of life. What is for you has its own divine timetable. Your alignment task is to remember that. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Virgo. I hope that resonates. If it does, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Libra rising and Libra sun. And if you want, you can watch for Libra moon as well. So this October 2nd eclipse is in your sign. It's a solar eclipse, which is a new moon, and it's going to be in your first house, or if you're Libra sun, wherever your sun falls in the whatever house it falls in. So this is a big deal. Anytime an eclipse is in your sign, especially in your first house, it gives you this chance of a new beginning, a new chapter that is significant in your life. So for example, I know a Libra rising who is getting married at the time of this eclipse, and that is a good kind of indicator of this, again, a big chapter unfolding for you. So something new is trying to come to life for you at the time of this eclipse. And it's going to add to your sense of identity, your sense of self, your life path, and alter it in some significant way, especially if it's around 10 degrees of Libra where this eclipse is taking place. So one of the things that I feel like is coming up really strongly in the cards and definitely in the astrology is really kind of being aware of when you are starting this new chapter, that you are not carrying forward some of the toxic Libra traits, because this eclipse is conjunct Black Moon Lilith and the South Node. So there is something here that is a little bit like we have to release something to get all of the goodness out of the next chapter of our life. There is this new beginning. It is an exciting time, but we want to make sure that we don't carry forward, again, some of these habits or traits or aspects of behavior that are not healthy. And for Libras, that tends to be things like codependence, being very charming, being maybe even manipulative, over giving to people, over extending oneself, not always like being firm in who you are or filling yourself up, but kind of like trying to meet your needs through other people. It's a very, again, Libra is a very relationally oriented sign. And so if you can think about what can go wrong when you're too focused in relationships and too focused on others, that is kind of the toxicity that Libra can bring. And so because this eclipse is taking place with the South Node, it's important to, again, start this new beginning, start off in a place where you are not carrying those traits forward. So think about that in terms of whatever this situation is, because it's going to look different for everybody. I pulled a card for what's like the main theme or the animal surrounding this event or this eclipse energy, and I got the snow leopard for you guys. This is the Hermit card, and this is a card that centers around introspection And when I was reading the description, it was talking about self-trust, self-reliance, which is again kind of embodying some of the more like Taurus themes in astrology. And it's also talking about feeling connected to yourself as well as feeling connected to the divine. And so I think that ultimately this time is a lot around like self-evaluation. So there is this kind of inward journey that needs to happen around this eclipse. This again, this reflection on some of your own emotions or behaviors or habits that could be things that you don't want to bring with you. And it's important to kind of have a pause or a timeout or some time to check in with yourself to illuminate and think about those traits that you again want to not perpetuate in this next cycle. It's kind of like when you have a kid, you maybe become really even more aware of things that your family has passed down to you and decide like, okay, this stops with me. I'm not going to carry this forward into this new life and this new cycle. That is how I see it symbolically. And this could apply to anything in your life. This eclipse is squaring Mars in Cancer in the 10th. So there is some energy and action here around one's kind of life direction or career. The 10th house is also indicative of relationship with authority figures and people who, yeah, like our parents or the government or like society, and kind of like expectations from people who usually hold some type of power or authority in our lives. So I think a big part of this eclipse is about breaking with that. So breaking tradition, breaking expectations, not allowing yourself to feel pressured, which could cause some stress if you feel pressure from family or pressure from others' opinions, or if people have like an idea of what they want you to do with your life or a direction that they want you to move in. It's like it's super important to not feed into that too much, because I think ultimately this eclipse is about you, and that Mars in the 10th can really indicate a bias towards having too much credence in maybe something outside of you that is influencing you, when I think the snow leopard wants you to turn into your heart and feel into what really resonates with you for your next steps or for what you really desire. So I think that's going to be really important here, is to kind of insulate yourself a little bit from all the noise that's coming from the outside. And the ruler of this eclipse is Venus, and Venus is in Scorpio. So Venus is your planetary ruler, it rules this eclipse, and it's in Scorpio. It doesn't function as well in this sign. It doesn't necessarily like to be in this sign, but Venus in Scorpio has its own powers, because Scorpio is very self-aware, very willing to look at all of the shades of gray in one's personality, to see the shadow elements of the self, to see things in the not kind of rosy aspect. And Venus usually likes to see things through rose-colored glasses. It wants things to be perfect and beautiful and harmonious. And when it's in Scorpio, it's kind of in touch with the darkness of our life, or the depths of our emotions, or the intensity of our feelings about a situation. And that can be really profound. It can create a deeper connection with those around us. It can also create a deeper connection with ourselves by having us, again, be super self-aware. And I think that will suit you with the snow leopard being at the center of your reading. I think that ability to kind of connect with all aspects of yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly, I think is really going to benefit you at this time. Venus is in your second house at this time. So there is some kind of focus here on self-sufficiency, like we were talking about. The second house is where we have money, where we have skills, and we rely on ourselves to get ahead in life. We rely on the things that we own, and we and our own kind of values and skill set in order to be able to procure the things that we need to survive. So there's a lot here around, again, being able to sustain oneself. And so whatever happens during this eclipse, this new chapter that's unfolding for you, I think it's ultimately trying to help you build yourself up in a way and reflect on certain traits and whatnot that will help you be like have the proper boundaries and be independent and have maybe even space from people or things that might feel like they impede upon your boundaries or overstep or drain your energy or don't feel like they contribute to your overall well-being and success in life. So I see this as like a protective kind of eclipse for you where you're doing this inner work because you're having a big chapter begin that will be externalized, that will be noticeable in your life. But it's like the inner work is super necessary in order for this to go well. And in order not to carry forward some old people, old cycles into this next chapter, like I mentioned. And to be, again, quite self-reliant. And I really see that with the Eight of Wands and the Nine of Pentacles. I feel like Spirit is trying to tell you that when you really tap into this energy of being independent and self-reliant, I think you become really abundant. But I also think you start to gain a lot of momentum with this Eight of Wands. This is a card of people like really trusting their instinct, jumping in with, head first, feeling like their hard work is paying off. They're getting results, they're seeing success, things are making progress, things are having like movement in your life. So I think you're going to be feeling that around this time, but it's a result of your independence, your self-reliance, the things that you've built up inside of yourself, like the coping skills, the self-belief, the value that you have, and that you see in yourself, the way that you stand up for yourself, the way that you kind of demand to be treated fairly in relationships. Whatever this is, it's like your ability to take care of yourself is what is accelerating your life right now and what contributed to this chapter and developing now. And it's also saying to continue that level of independence and self-reliance here. So Venus is in the second, as I mentioned, and it's trining Mars in Cancer in the 10th and Saturn and Pisces in the 6th. So there's quite a bit of like work energy here. So there could be stuff coming up around work or material reality, like the things that we own or the money that we make or the place that we live or the career that we have. There's quite a lot going on with that. So some of you guys might have new beginnings in some way in any of those areas of your life, including your reputation, your public reputation. And that's why marriage often coincides with stuff going on with the 10th house, because we're changing our last name. We're changing how we are seen by the world. And so there is that element. But I think for many of you, this is a lot about even potentially gaining new money or having some kind of like shift in your material world and the things that you own. Like I see this kind of like, let's focus on you. Let's focus on your independence and your boundaries. Let's invest in this new chapter because it has a potential to lead to some kind of like physical change in your world. And that's going to look really different depending on your age and where you're at in your life. But yeah, I see that you guys are going to be feeling stable as a result of this new chapter that's coming into your life. So if you are getting married, like this example, you combine finances with somebody, and so that stabilizes you. But it's more than that because this is a focus on you and what you're bringing to the table. So it's almost like you are, as a result of being with this person, maybe you feel that you are like whatever this chapter is giving you maybe a sense of peace, or it's building you up in some way to help you produce more as an individual. So whatever this is, it's not like you're getting it from others. You are the one creating it. You are the one yeah, manifesting something, and it's definitely in the material world. And for some of you, it could very much be career wise. Um, so I do also see the Nine of Swords and the Ace of Wands. So there's something here with the Ace of Wands. There's something here that's like a new beginning, something that's good, something that's exciting, that you're likely like physically doing, or that you are at the very least, creatively inspired by. But there's some kind of spark. Yeah, this new path. There's something exciting about this new path for you. But then I also feel like there's some level of maybe anticipation or uncertainty or insecurity, and for very intense situations, it could be even dread. But there's something here in regards to the situation where you could be a little bit worried about it, whatever this is. So this could be if you are starting something new that affects you financially or career wise, or making some kind of big move. You could be both really excited but also like nervous about it, and feel like, well, maybe I should wait, or maybe I'm not, this isn't going to go as well as I thought, or just having sometimes some doubts. And I can see here with the inexperienced card, I feel like there's maybe a lot of unknowns about whatever this chapter is. Like, you haven't clarified your vision, or you are uncertain about how it's going to unfold. And that in itself can create a lot of kind of overthinking and uncertainty around the situation. And I feel like this eclipse for you is helping you with this Hermit card, is helping you kind of, first of all, navigate ambiguity with greater peace, but also because this Libra eclipse is about peace and harmony wherever we are at, even if things are not at their final destination, their final outcome. But with this Snow Leopard card, I also think it's helping you become more aware and have more clarity come to you, even if there is some ambiguity or uncertainty within the path that's in front of you. But again, I get this feeling of like, it's an exciting thing, but it's like a nervous excitement. I don't think for a lot of you it will be dread. I think that's just, I get a good feeling about this eclipse overall. But yeah, there's something about it where it's like the anticipation is like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, so that's the general message for you guys. I think I want to pull another card. Spirit, what advice do you have for my Libra risings and sun? What advice do you have for my Libras? Cleansing. Yeah, this makes sense with the South Node. Letting stuff go, going through and maybe purging like old belongings that you own, minimizing in case you do end up acquiring something new or moving somewhere new or getting more money. It's like, I see you guys being able to build something that's a little bit better. So it's like maybe you get rid of old clothes and you're able to buy new, better clothes. Or maybe you get rid of just like some old stuff, or where you're living and you're able to move to a better place, but you have less stuff and it feels more peaceful. But this also can be on a non-physical level where you're getting rid of, like toxic patterns in relationships and codependency and overgiving and overextending yourself. It's like, let's cleanse ourselves from that. Let's be independent, self-reliant, really value ourselves. And again, from that place, you're going to be able to achieve a lot and achieve things faster. Like, things are going to come to you very, very quickly as a result of deciding to let it go. It's almost like if you're going on a hike and you drop your backpack, I'm sure you could move faster and get to the top faster. So there's that sense of being willing to let something go in order to gain something much better. So that's what I see for you, Libra. If that resonates with you, I'd love to hear in the comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, next we have Scorpio rising and sun. This Libra solar eclipse happening on October 2nd is taking place in your 12th house, conjunct the South Node. So there's something that we need to release whenever we have an eclipse with the South Node. And this is a solar eclipse, which is a new moon, which indicates that there is this potential for a new beginning here. Not a potential, there is a new beginning, period. But in order for the new beginning to initiate, we really have to release some baggage. We have to let something go. We have to decide to not carry forth something with us into a new cycle. My friends, I'm getting a very strong and clear message for you around needing to release elements of your childhood, your past, and the traumas that you've had, which are often stored in the subconscious, which is where this eclipse is taking place in the 12th house of the subconscious. So this eclipse is going to illuminate the residue of buried emotions from traumatic experiences from your childhood that are related to relationships and your ability to express, your ability to be open, your ability to be generous, to be warm, to accept others, and have this good exchange between you and another person. My Scorpios, sometimes you guys can have walls. Sometimes you guys can become, defensive or uncertain, and not always kind of have faith that, like, the faith and the trust in relationships that Libra has, which is where this eclipse is not always super easy or available to you. That's why this sign is in your 12th house. Whatever sign is in the 12th is the least consciously available to us to work with. And so there's something about this kind of ease and flow and trust and being super easy to like get along with people and socialize that might feel like you might realize during this eclipse that you have some things that come up and block you from that connection and that ease of experience in relating with other people, whether this is a one-on-one relationship or this is more of like a group dynamic or this is a really intimate connection, or just social. It doesn't matter. The message is the same. And I can really see that with this Lovers and the Six of Cups and Nine of Swords. It's like there's an anxiety here because of past memories. And you might not even realize how much this is linked with your trauma. So one of my recommendations is to really go back and write about the correlations you might not have noticed between kind of like who you were maybe before a difficult event happened in your life and then who you were after that difficult event happened. And ask yourself, what beliefs or emotions and residue are you carrying with you today from that event still? Because I think a lot of those things are playing out again, which is why this is an eclipse with the South Node. There is a kind of nostalgia or reminiscing of the past where we're like, wait, this event has already taken place in a different energetic form. I've already felt this experience before. I've already felt these feelings before. So yes. So for example, if you had a really hard breakup at some point in your life, you might be scared to open up again. If you had a friend betray you, you might feel like you want to keep your secrets and parts of yourself just to yourself with other friends. If you've had a loved one die, especially die suddenly or unexpectedly, you might find that you have trouble connecting and creating kind of committed relationships because of fear of loss, or you might remain guarded. So there's something going on here with that, Scorpios, where it's time for that really honest and deep reflection about your ability to connect with others. And I think one of the problems is that you're really kind of stuck with this Empress and the Tower in reverse. I think you guys are really kind of stuck in a comfort zone. The Empress is a card that is associated with Venus. Venus is comfort. Venus is feeling good. Venus is having all of the things that we want in life right on our doorstep. This is like ordering Amazon and it appears the next day. But the Tower in reverse is somebody resisting change, resisting letting go of their comfort zone, their comfort blanket. So this could be only hanging out with the same friends over and over again. This could be only trying to date somebody online, but being too afraid to talk to them on the phone or meet them in person. This could be, not branching out, not taking a risk emotionally in relationships, not putting yourself out there in some way. And whatever that looks like, you're getting the gist, I hope. So there's a sense of like, I'm going to hold so tightly onto my comfort zone because I am scared of vulnerability. I'm scared of intimacy. I'm scared of getting hurt. I'm scared of this depth of connection. And this is a super important eclipse for you because this is a Libra eclipse and the ruler of Libra is Venus, and Venus is in your sign. It's in Scorpio. It's in your first house if this is your ascendant. So that means that this is impacting you on a really deep personal level and helping you reflect on who you are as a person and how you want to show up in relationships. And it will help you see what baggage you want to let go of so you can have real connection with others and not hold yourself back. That's the feeling that I'm getting, is like a longing for something and then a fear of that thing as well. And like kind of, you know, being behind a wall and like looking at what is beautiful on the other side. Actually, this reminds me a lot of the Taylor Swift song, like looking in people's windows or something, looking in windows, something like that. And it just gives me that kind of energy of like somebody on Christmas looking at the family enjoying each other inside, but they're outside and they don't want to reach out to their family and take that risk to maybe mend a bridge or whatever. So that's the kind of energy that I'm getting with this, is like being on the outside, looking in, wanting something, but not taking that chance. And ultimately, this eclipse is about overcoming that fear. This eclipse is squaring Mars in Cancer in the 9th house. So there's something here around your beliefs that you are overly emotional and subjective about, and not realizing that it's influencing you in a way that is distorting reality. That's, for example, if you've had loss and you're afraid to open up again and you have these walls, then Mars in Cancer in the 9th can tell you people are going to disappoint you. People are going to, fall out of your life. You can't trust that you can open up to people. And it creates this kind of defensiveness, these beliefs that are here to protect you, but they are coming from an emotionally biased place. And they're actually not helping you. They are keeping you stuck, and they're keeping you imprisoned in the own walls that you put up to protect yourself. So really, this eclipse is about overcoming that and establishing a greater sense of faith and new belief systems to support what you're looking for. The animal to guide you during this eclipse is the weasel. And this card really says so much. In the deck I was reading, I wrote some notes. It's so related to everything Scorpio. Weasels are known for being really stealth. They're kind of like spies. They have really great street smarts, and they're shapeshifters. And this is very Scorpio, right? Scorpios are really good at seeing what's really actually happening. This card also talks about being a truth finder and trusting your gut. This is all super Scorpios. They sit back, they observe, they watch, they find like the truth between the lines of what people are saying or how people are behaving, and they maybe just are going off of a little gut instinct around a person or situation, something that feels off, and then they kind of go with that. So I feel like part of what this eclipse is saying is really trying to, I feel like there's two ways that this is trying to speak to you. One is that you don't want to be too much in your weasel energy, because Scorpios can get to a point where they're so observant and they're looking for like the other shoe to drop, and they're like suspicious of people, and that does inhibit ability to connect. But on the other hand, Scorpios are super intuitive, and so when they really listen to their gut and they're tapped into their intuition from a place of peace rather than paranoia, they are able to anticipate if somebody has a bad character and isn't worth bringing into their life, and because that would just drudge up more trauma. So Scorpios are truly able to see so much about somebody. But again, with this Mars and Cancer in the 9th, there are distorted emotional beliefs, or distorted beliefs that come from an emotional place, that might have you paranoid and might have you suspecting things that are not there. And so a Libra eclipse is about creating balance and peace and objectivity. It's an air sign, and it's a relational air sign concerned with seeing both sides. So I think it's important to kind of establish that balanced perspective and question yourself, or if you have somebody you trust, allow yourself to open up to them and see what they see in the situation, and take that into consideration if you feel paranoid or uncertain about something or someone. But ultimately, this is saying that you can pretty much trust your gut, right? If you're not in that kind of suspicious paranoia, but you're coming from a balanced place, you can trust your gut here and your observations. And this card is also talking about being very self-assured, like feeling like you are in quiet kind of confidence or a place of power. And that's really what I feel like with Venus in the first in Scorpio. It's like I believe in myself. I see the worthiness in myself, but I don't need to go and like explain that to people. I don't need to go convince people to like me. It's like approaching relationships from that place of quiet confidence, I think is super key. You don't need to, I think sometimes when people aren't very, how should I say this? When people aren't maybe like so good with other people and they want to be liked, and they maybe lack some maturity in certain ways or confidence in certain ways, they might try to sell themselves. They might try to boast about themselves or like really get in front of people's faces and like be like, look at me or like me or da da da. And I think one of the things that Scorpio can be really great at, and with Venus again in your sign right now, you can harness this kind of ability to really feel like you are powerful and that you are confident, that you are worthy, and that you are good how you are. And you know, sometimes Venus and Scorpio can go the other way, where you, instead of being like quiet and mysterious and confident in yourself and attracting people to you, which is a powerful Venus and Scorpio, there could also be the less powerful version, which would be feeling like really I guess insecure and suspicious and not really like believing in your own worthiness in a way where you start to kind of like look for flaws and things that can go wrong. So yeah, just trying to embody more of that really beautiful aspect of Venus and Scorpio, which is that quiet confidence to attract the right people into your life. And your advice card was this potential card in reverse. And it's really talking about not living up, like the fact that you're not living up to your full potential in relationships. You need to be honest with yourself about this. It doesn't have to just be in relationships, but I think for most of you it will be, because this is a Libra eclipse. There's some way that you guys are holding yourselves back. And again, we already talked about why. It's because you've had really traumatic experiences, or just somewhat traumatic experiences that have left scars and that have made you withdraw in some way. So this potential card in reverse is really talking about you guys reflecting honestly with yourself. Are you envious, which is honestly a Scorpio thing? Envious or jealous? Are you stuck in a cycle of addiction or avoidance? Are you bored with life? Are you feeling anxious? Are you having low self-esteem? These are all indicators of not living up to your potential in relationships. And what you need to do is, Tower in reverse, take a risk, take a chance. Don't just try to avoid or resist change. Jump in head first into something, following your intuition, of course. And the other piece of advice here for you guys is to really open up, because we have this pelvis here in yoga, which I don't know if you guys know, but I'm also a yoga instructor at the Gold's Gym. If you want to check out my classes here in Colorado. But anyway, so the pelvis holds, we say that it holds a lot of our wounding. And so many times people say, I haven't seen this personally, but people say that if you go into deep hip openers, sometimes people will cry in class because they're releasing some of this kind of trauma that the pelvis holds. And so for many of you guys, there's buried emotions that you're holding in your body, that you're holding in your heart, in your mind, and your subconscious, which is again why this eclipse in the 12th is going to help break that out for you and release it for you. But it's telling you that it's time to like reflect on some of these feelings that you've been having and work with a therapist, or work, you know, spiritually, or a meditation or journaling, whatever suits you, to try to release some of these buried feelings so that you can express yourself emotionally. And with this hand card, it's talking about being warm, generous, loving, affectionate, creative, and again, expressive in your relationships and with yourself, in order to create this kind of openness that you're looking for with this Libra eclipse. And so that's your advice, Scorpios. I really hope that this makes sense for you. I hope it resonates. This is a time where your heart can be broken open, but you first have to let go of the walls, the guards, the baggage, in order to get to that place of warm affection, generous love. So again, if this resonates, I'd love to hear it in the comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Sagittarius rising and sun. This Libra solar eclipse on October 2nd is taking place in your 11th house. And a Libra new moon, which this essentially is all about having new kinds of beginnings within our relationships. With this taking place in the 11th house, which is already strongly associated with relationships, it indicates that there is a strong desire to connect, to belong, to be accepted. And especially, Libra energy already brings that out in us. However, this eclipse is squaring Mars and Cancer in your 8th house. So there's some other message here around needing to also have the proper boundaries and kind of like ways that we protect ourselves in relationships in order to create I feel like in order to make the wisest decisions, basically. I did pull the Hierophant card. It's the third card out of all of these. And the message that came to me around this card was doing what people expect of you. And I feel like this message is a little bit going against that, like kind of going outside of the norm of what you would normally do, or not just like listening to what other people want from you, getting really clear around what feels like a no for you, what feels like a yes for you, what good boundaries feel like in your life, like what kind of protective mechanisms you need. And there's this sense of like being very honest and truthful and communicating your feelings about things, or your like the reasoning as well. Like, I'm setting this boundary because of X, Y, and Z, or I feel this way. And not just, I don't see this as cold. I feel like it's a compassionate and loving way, because I pulled the King of Swords and Queen of Cups, and both of these cards, the King of Swords is about the communication aspect, and the Queen of Cups is doing it from a loving place. So it's like not just being like, this is my boundary, this is a no, and no means no, and that's a full sentence, which I've had somebody tell me before. And I feel like that's true. No is a full sentence. And when you love someone and you're in close connection with somebody, there is a desire to let them in to your inner world and help them understand you. And that is what I feel like this Libra eclipse is about, is helping people see who you are and see where you're coming from, and create this sense of like compassion and respect around maybe a boundary that's uncomfortable for somebody, or maybe a decision that isn't what somebody else wants, or whatever it is. It's just having people like really understand your point of view. And that is what this Condor card, I think, in many ways is about. It says final authority. It's not that explaining yourself means that you're giving power to somebody else. You are the final authority over your decisions, and your wisdom, your own kind of insight is ultimately what matters, right? The other person might be coming from an emotional place or a biased place, but you know what's best for you, and that ultimately is best for the other person as well. But it also means that you can explain, you can share, I shouldn't say explain, but you can share your perspective and where you're coming from, so that there is that sense of connection in the process of the decision. So it's like your decision is final. You are the final authority. You're not having to justify or get approval. It's not like that. But there is a desire for that compassion and connection and a mutual understanding that can come from opening your heart, being vulnerable, showing what you're feeling or going through, and creating that shared experience. The Condor is also a vulture, and it has a 9 foot wingspan. So this is a really powerful bird that's able to take things that are dying and transform it into life. And it's a strong bird. It has a really, again, a really long wingspan. So there's something here around like one's own power of taking maybe a difficult situation or something that feels like a dead end or something that feels like it could create a road bump in connection and intimacy, and transforming it through the power of bravery in many ways, to fly, to take up space, to see things from new heights or different perspectives, to trust your own boundaries, to trust your own instincts with things, to listen to the signs, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Again, to use those things to confront the situation in a way that will transform it into a way to be closer. Instead of the road bump being there, it's like the road bump becomes a mild stop where you are connecting deeper, basically. I hope that makes sense. So I want to talk about these signs because the ruler of this eclipse is Venus, and Venus is in the 12th house for you in Scorpio. So there is something very instinctive that is coming through for you, and this could happen by a gut feeling. This could happen by a dream that sends you a message. This could be a tarot reading that you see online, or a bird that's flying over that indicates something. But there are signs that are pointing you towards what the right like ways of communicating, or the right decisions, or the right boundaries. If you have anything that's on your mind that you need clarity around, the signs are going to be really evident at the time of this eclipse, and you're being encouraged to listen to those signs. There's also a really strong message here around loyalty. And this focus card talks about this. It's like remaining devoted to something, remaining loyal to something, constant with something. And I feel like this eclipse is trying to shed light on, again, how things could be maybe road bumps or whatever in the face of on your journey. So like your desire to connect deeper with somebody, the longer they have a relationship, things come up and just BS happens, and you have to kind of get over that road bump and you become closer. But it's only through having devotion and loyalty and dedication to something that you are able to overcome those bumps. So I think ultimately one of the pieces of advice for this eclipse is to remain loyal and devoted, and also this nurturing in reverse, have a strong sense of self and boundaries that allows you to remain in the relationship without losing your integrity, without losing the space that you need to take care of yourself, or the things that you need for you. So it's like, I can be devoted to you and devoted to myself. So it's like we can work through some things where there could be misunderstanding around those boundaries or those decisions that I make for myself. Yeah. It's interesting because I did pull the Knight of Pentacles in reverse, and this talks about having like a lack of loyalty. So I feel like some of you guys might feel that having a boundary, or saying no for something, or separating yourself from something, or doing something that you need to do to protect yourself, I feel like some of you guys might misinterpret this as not being loyal. And I really feel like this is coming from Mars and Cancer in the 8th. I feel like wherever Mars and Cancer is right now is leading to a lot of emotional bias. And being in the 8th house, there's a lot that goes on in terms of relationship, like melding together, like people becoming one, the union where you kind of lose the self in the relationship and you merge. And with Mars and Cancer in the 8th, it might feel like that's what you want to do. You might feel like, oh yeah, relationship is merging. They say they want this and I want this. They say they're going this way, I'm going to go this way. And this eclipse is squaring Mars in your 8th, and it's telling you there's an emotional bias here where you're thinking that that's what love looks like. But actually, boundaries can go hand in hand with loyalty and devotion. Separation and individuality and taking care and protecting yourself can go hand in hand with, again, loyalty, devotion, consistency, being there for somebody. Sometimes you taking care of yourself might be a little bit at odds with you being able to take care of somebody else. But with this nurturer card in reverse, you do have to put yourself first. And that doesn't mean that you don't care about the other person. Again, doesn't mean you're not loyal to the other person. This is an eclipse, again, in Libra in the 11th house. So this is about creating a greater connection with people. So even though it could be an initial road bump, you making sure that you take care of yourself first does indicate that you will have the capacity later on to give to others because you're coming from a full cup, and that you won't have resentment later on as well that will fester in the relationship and create emotional disconnect and alienation from one another. And so really it's the only thing that you can do long term to have a stable and healthy relationship. And I really feel like you guys are going to come into a different understanding of what that kind of connection looks like. But yeah, I definitely feel like with the Queen of Cups, you're very compassionate, you're very sensitive, and sometimes you just want to, with the Hierophant, just do what is expected of you. But in reality, I think this is developing the skill to be able to know, like, what is the right amount of myself to give? What's the right amount of myself to, at sometimes, sacrifice? Whereas other times you're meant to fill up your own cup. And it's like really learning that nuance of all of this. And with Venus in the 12th house, that nuance, you can help understand like what the right decision is in each moment by looking at the signs, by asking spirit and then asking for spirit to communicate with you through some kind of mechanism. And then you'll be able to really discern, you know, where is that healthy separation and boundary. So yeah, that is what I'm seeing for you, Sagittarius. I usually am pulling advice cards, but I definitely feel like that was full of advice for you. I hope that this resonates. If it does, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have such a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Capricorn rising and sun. This Libra solar eclipse on October 2nd is happening in your 10th house of career. So, a Libra eclipse can be a time where we need to make decisions. And Libras are not always the best at making decisions in the sense that they can kind of struggle in their commitment to a decision. They see so many different sides and angles that it can create this push and pull between different options. And there might be something going on here with that for you guys. There's honestly a lot of messages here, so I'm going to just go through a bunch of different stuff right now. So let me start off with the cards, and then I'm going to come back to the astrology. Actually, really quick message though. A new moon eclipse in the 10th house doesn't indicate the potential for a new kind of path to open up for you in your life. So something that leads you somewhere that is like long term, basically. So this could be like a new career path, wanting to even move somewhere new or just follow some kind of goal or objective. That's usually what a eclipse in the 10th house can bring, especially a solar eclipse. And I pulled this squirrel for you, and it's funny because I was just going for a walk and I was thinking about this aspect of the squirrels that I was seeing, because there's a lot of squirrels in my neighborhood. And one of the things that I noticed or was just thinking actively about squirrels today is that they I was walking towards one of them. It's holding its little nut and it's looking at me and it's just standing there. And I'm walking towards it and I'm getting closer and closer and closer. And it's just standing there. And I'm like, when are you going to run away? Because I have my dog with me. And they wait until the last second and then they scurry away. And there's this kind of indecision, which is why so many squirrels get hit by cars, because sometimes they'll decide to cross the road and then the car will come and then they'll decide to run across the road the opposite way and then they get hit. And there's this kind of like indecision and this hesitancy that can come from the squirrel mind. And so that was one of the things that I thought about on the walk today. And I was like, if I pull the squirrel, anytime soon, then I'll know that's related to this message. And then I came back and I pulled the squirrel for you. So there might be something where you guys are kind of like indecisive or hesitant about or back and forth about. And this eclipse is trying to help you gain clarity and maybe commitment to a certain path or a decision instead of this wobbliness. There's, again, a lot of messages here. That's not the only one, so stay tuned if that does not resonate. The squirrel also talks about legacy. When I was reading about the squirrel in this deck, and I love these cards, but why does anyone put lamination on them? Like, okay. Anywho, so I feel a little bit like a squirrel right now, so I'm sorry. But basically, it's talking about legacy because squirrels will hide their nuts or whatever they're foraging and they will bury them and they prepare for the long term that way. Like, I'm preparing for winter, I'm preparing for whatever season I won't have that much food in by hiding these nuts away. So there's this very Capricornian element to them where they are thinking long term and doing what they need to do to prepare for that time. But then they also in the book said that the squirrels only find 10% of the nuts that they buried. So they're planting all these nuts everywhere and only going to get the benefits of some of them. And what this is saying is that the nuts that are left behind, they create the foliage, the greenery, the trees or whatever for the next generations. There's a legacy, there's a reputation, there's an impact that they leave behind. Even if it's a mishap, they naturally are taking an important role on within the ecosystem to be a provider. And I was going to say it's kind of a thankless job, but it's not necessarily, but yeah, anyway. So what I'm trying to say here is with an eclipse in the 10th house, there is definitely like a strong energy here around your legacy and your impact and the things that you are doing for your own future, but also that will have these kind of ripple effects out into the world to help all these other people that you might not even realize at the time that you're doing it. That squirrel didn't have the intention of planting that seed and then not coming back. And so you might do things that you intend to do for yourself. But I think that you'll actually find that the ideas that you have during this eclipse have this really potent energy that is able to reverberate or ripple out into next generations without even thinking about it. This could be on a small scale within your family, or this could be on a large scale within, the world and the collective. So I just think that the decisions that you're making now, you might not realize how big of an impact and how long they're going to last for. So just something to consider with that. Another element of this eclipse is that it's squaring Mars in Cancer in the 7th house. And I've been saying with all the other groups, everywhere Mars in Cancer is in someone's chart, I believe right now is representing where we're having some kind of like emotional defensiveness or reactiveness that is biased, because Cancer is very subjective. Mars can be a little bit like, again, emotionally biased by the feelings that come up, and it can see situations differently and react maybe even a little bit impulsively as a result of those feelings. And this for you is in the area of your relationships. And there's something going on here where I feel like your relationships right now could be, I'm definitely seeing some like discord, and this could be family discord. This could be with really close loved ones. This could be things of the past of discord, but there's definitely something here with the 3 of Swords and the 6 of Cups. I feel like whatever's going on at this eclipse is bringing up like some of your past wounding within relationships with other people, even potentially all the way back to childhood with the Six of Cups. But there's some level of memories reoccurring here, things resurfacing from the past and reminding you of how you've been hurt. And that's what I feel like the Mars in the seventh house is doing in Cancer. Is it's sensitive and it's like a little bit on guard, a little bit reactive. And then someone says something or does something that like cues off some memory of the past, and you're like ready, you're ready to fight, you're ready to defend yourself. And really what I'm seeing, your advice card was this patterns. And it's like, what's happening here is you need to, well, at this eclipse, you're becoming aware of the patterns that you are involved in. And I think this has to deal with the legacy in a big way. It's not just about career impact. It's about your energy within the world. What emotions are you putting out? How do you treat people? How do you think? What are you going out and doing behavior wise and contributing to the world? Is it a part of a pattern or a cycle? Or is it something that's conscious? Is it something that is a positive thing? It could be a positive pattern where you have, really healthy habits that you've instilled in yourself that you're putting out into the world. But it could also be an unhealthy pattern, things that come up within your relationships and impact a lot of other people, and you might not fully realize it all the time. And I think that this eclipse is trying to draw those things to the surface for you. And the ruler of this eclipse, Venus, is in your 11th house, which is also a relationship house. Venus is trining Mars in the 7th, a relationship house. And then they're both trining Saturn and Pisces. So it's a grand water trine in your 3rd house. So there's a need here to recognize the influence of your thoughts and your relationships and the way that you meet people and connect with people, and how all of this creates this kind of footprint or fingerprint on the world, that you're interacting with people in the grocery store. You are maybe meeting people at school, or, going to work every day, or having close relationships with your partner. And then you influence that partner, and then that partner influences other people. There's this sense of like a connective web. And this eclipse is trying to make you aware of how you are a part of this web, and how you have this lasting impact and legacy, and how if you let certain pains or emotional woundings from a few individuals here or there negatively impact you and create patterns, unhealthy patterns, it's like it's not an isolated incident. You are part of this larger connected web, and you are impacting everybody. This is a Libra eclipse, which means we're meant to open our awareness to all of the people around us and see how we are, again, a part of something bigger, especially with this being in your 10th house. And I pulled the gallbladder for you, which is interesting because if you know medical astrology, Capricorn rules over the gallbladder. And the gallbladder produces or stores bile, which helps obviously break things down. So there's something about, and it's funny because a lot of people get their gallbladder removed because they get like gallstones or whatever, and people think that maybe you don't need it, or you need your gallbladder. You can live without it though. But anywho, so yeah, I pulled the gallbladder, and this is talking about surprise, shock, indecisiveness, apprehension. It says, you are still reeling from a recent shock. You may find yourself unable to move forward, or move forward with trepidation and apprehension. That was the squirrel energy that I got of like, I'm almost about to get hit by a car because I'm moving forward, but I'm like nervous. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to go back. Am I going to go forward? Like, I'm not committing to this progress, basically. You may be unsure of where to go next, or having difficulty making decisions for fear of making the wrong choice. Exactly what I was talking about. Listen to your intuition and don't lose faith in your own judgment. Some events and outcomes are beyond your control. And that's what I think. I think there's something that's either happened in the past or that could happen around this eclipse, but something from your life has transpired that may have made you like question yourself, or question your own judgment, or may have made you feel like, again, brought up some of these feelings where that hurt that and made you a little bit more guarded and uncertain about people or situations that you're in. And I feel like what this eclipse is trying to do is it's trying to help you like commit to your path forward and know what you want and know where you're going, and not let these painful events or situations get in the way of that forward momentum in your life and your belief in yourself. And again, also being aware of these patterns and how you impact others. So there's a lot of messages. I almost feel like, again, very squirrely here. I asked Spirit as well, like, what is going on? And I pulled the 5 of Pentacles, 10 of Cups reverse, and 6 of Pentacles. So again, it feels like, and this might be talking about the past for you, but it feels like with the 5 of Pentacles and 10 of Cups reverse, like an unstable or unhealthy home environment. Often my Capricorn risings are people that grow up quite quickly or are parentified in some kind of way or have some type of tragedy that definitely like hardens or matures them and from a young age. And so if that's you, this is speaking to you. The 5 of Pentacles and the 10 of Cups in reverse can indicate that broken family environment, like I said, and where you feel like there was scarcity, there was lack, there was difficulty getting certain needs met. And it might have felt like you were trying to get blood from a stone or, water from a rock or whatever the saying is. Feel free to comment down below what the saying is. And with this ending in the 6 of Pentacles, this is a card of generosity, of giving back, and also of your hard work paying off. So to me, this is something where you might be stuck in a cycle that, like if, for example, if you didn't have your needs met as a kid and you came from a broken home, you might have certain patterns ingrained in you relationally and certain aspects of yourself that are ingrained in you. Maybe if your family didn't believe in you, maybe you don't believe in yourself. Maybe you struggle with, confidence or making decisions or whatever this reading is about for you. And it kind of ingrains that in you, but then you do this work to overcome those patterns or those ingrained aspects. And the 6 of Pentacles shows that pays off for you. And it also shows that the work that you're doing provides for future generations and is generous by doing this. It's like the squirrel only getting 10% of what it planted, because the work that you're doing isn't for just yourself. It's for the collective. It's for, again, maybe future children that you have or the people in your environment. There's something here where it's like you're leaving a legacy by doing the inner work necessary to get out of some of these patterns and to gain clarity on where exactly you're meant to go in life. To get out of a fog or like an entrapment that you could be in as a result of these patterns, and gain conviction and hope. And this is one of the advice cards that I got for you, which is to just hope, to believe, to feel like there is better out there for you, to not let the 3 of Swords, the pain in your heart from any situation, kind of simplify life and into being two-dimensional and just about pain. There's always a silver lining. There's always a way to come out of the destruction and build something new. The squirrel might not get 100% of what it plants and the effort it puts into something. It might not yield perfect results, but from that mistake, a forest could grow or an ecosystem could emerge. And so there's a sense of the work that you're doing is worthwhile, and it's creating an atmosphere or an environment that is going to benefit many others as well as yourself. And there's just something to be hopeful for about that, because things are going to continue to get better and the work is going to reward you and reward others, which is such a cool thing. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Capricorn. If that resonates, I'd love to hear from you down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Aquarius rising and sun. This Libra solar eclipse on October 2nd is taking place in your 9th house. And the 9th house is very much associated with the divine. It's associated with hope, with faith, with prosperity, with prophecy. And it's interesting because Libra is a sign very heavily associated with justice. And I kind of feel like there's some kind of like divine justice going on here for you guys, where things are going to turn around more in your favor. And there may be a little bit of energy of other people kind of getting what they deserve a little bit. This might not be about others, but there is some sense of like retribution, you getting paid back, or things coming back around from in ways that they might have felt unfair. And I really see that because I pulled both the elephant, I pulled two justices cards. One is an elephant and one is just tarot of justice. So to me, this is absolutely saying there's something that is becoming balanced again that was once imbalanced. There's something that's becoming fair that was once unfair. If somebody treated you poorly, their karma will come back around. If you have been putting out good karma, your good karma will come back around. And with this liberation card in reverse, this is Kali. Kali is a goddess of anger and destruction. And when it's a reverse, it's saying that when we it's important to let out those feelings of anger and destruction and to use it creatively, to harness it for our good. And I definitely feel like there may have been something that was like done wrong to you, or there may have been something unfair going on in your life, or unjust in your life. And you could have had this kind of, yeah, anger and frustration around these injustices. And I really see that with this eclipse squaring Mars and Cancer in your sixth house. The sixth house is the house of slavery. And that is the greatest sense of injustice and imbalance. And so I really feel that there's something going on here where you could be having feelings of frustration around maybe imbalances in your life where you work really hard but you didn't get the results, and you, in recognition, you asked for the time off but they're like, no, they gave it to somebody else. Somebody betrayed you and then they like got married in their next relationship and they had a happily ever after, and you're like, what the heck, this doesn't seem fair. This doesn't seem right. Like, I'm trying hard with this person or this thing and I'm not getting the results, or I'm not getting treated fairly or justly. There's an imbalance here. And this eclipse is really saying, I feel like it's trying to restore your faith that the universe is looking out for you. The ninth house is, again, so much about kind of the signs, the future, the prophecy that I mentioned, working with spiritual leaders. And I really feel like God's trying to say, like, wink at you almost, like, you're going to be okay. And the path ahead looks bright for you. And the things that have felt really unfair and balanced are going to clear up in a way that is going to bring you a sense of justice and satisfaction. And yeah, I really feel like your energy is going to be restoring with this vitality and regeneration. I think if you have felt like some area of your life has been draining you, or has, again, not paid back what you've given into it, or if it has been emotionally disruptive for you and just throwing you off balance, I'm really seeing with this vitality and regeneration that you're coming back restored. I just got a visual of like a blow up doll that was like empty, and somebody's like filling it with air, and then all of a sudden the blow up doll is like fully almost human, with in size and stature and fullness. Like, I see you maybe we're like feeling a little bit empty in some way, and then you're becoming full again. And it's funny, full of air, because Libra is an air sign. So I really feel like you are able to overcome, with this elephant card, any kind of obstacle that was kind of getting in your way. But I don't feel like it's you doing it. I actually feel like it's the universe doing it for you. Again, this karmic wheel coming back around, especially with this square to Mars and Cancer in the sixth. This is an energy of like trying harder. I'm just going to like work a little harder, and I'm just going to do what I'm told, and I'm just going to put my head down and keep chugging along. And I feel like God or the universe is telling you, actually, I don't want you to keep like working at this. What I want you to do is like have a bigger picture, like see the future almost. and see how this is going to get better. Look at the signs. Trust in the wisdom that I'm giving you, the insights that I'm giving you around how this is going to improve. And I want you to believe and have hope and have faith that it will improve. And that it's almost like coming from an emotional and intuitive and belief-based place is where the work is, instead of trying to like fix it, resolve it, work harder to overcome it. That comes from a place of wanting like some semblance of control over the situation, which you don't have, right? Like not everything is in our control. And the ruler of this eclipse, Venus, is in your 10th house of career. So this also could be very financial or career oriented for you. And it's funny because I pulled the Four of Swords and 10 of Pentacles. Sorry, I'm like, and the Four of Swords is a card of rest and stagnation even. And the 10 of Pentacles is like stability and abundance and feeling like you're rewarded for the efforts that you put out. So it's funny because I feel like there's a saying in English where, you know, people will say like, don't sleep on that. And that means like, don't miss the opportunity to do something. And I feel like when I saw these cards, I was like, the universe has been sleeping on you career wise. And I don't know, there's something that's going to happen, I think, at this eclipse that's going to open up a new pathway for you potentially in your career, or your, it doesn't just have to be career, but like goals and objectives and directions that you have. Like the universe is going to give you some kind of new beginning in this area. But you first have to believe. You first have to have the faith. You don't have to, again, you don't have to keep working super, super hard for this justice or for this thing to come back around. I think that it is going to come back around for you. You are going to have abundance. It's going to go from stagnation to prosperity. I absolutely see that for you. And I think whatever career thing that you're looking for is going to work out for you, or goal is going to work out for you. But you have to really like pray and look for the signs and trust your intuition. And yes, you can take steps. It doesn't mean that you're totally inactive, but it's not like coming from a place of stress or fear or working super, super hard to prove yourself. You're already believing, you're already drawing in the manifestation by knowing that you're worthy, and justice is coming back around. And this part of your life that might have felt sleepy or stagnant is going to revitalize and re-energize you. Or be re-energized in your life. So I really see that. Really, really see that. Venus is in the 10th, trining Mars in the 6th and Saturn in the 2nd. So this is all very kind of material reality, these houses, and these planets are all working together. And because they're all in water signs, when you are relying on your intuition and creativity and imagination, you will start to see where there are open doors where you didn't consider it before. So you might feel like you've been blocked, or you know, you're not certain what the next choice is, and you might feel like you've lost faith at certain times. This eclipse is trying to renew your faith and help you to see things from a higher perspective, see again into the future in some way, and see maybe all the doors that you wouldn't have gone through if things weren't unfair, or if things weren't if you weren't blocked in certain ways. Like you wouldn't have gone to pursue this other thing, right? You wouldn't have had the chance to have this other experience if this thing wasn't somewhat thwarted for you or unfair for you. And so I really feel like this is very fated and very helpful for you, Aquarius. It's going to get you out of a situation that, just like maybe had a dead end to some degree there. Or maybe that you were meant to experience something else in some other way. And I really see that with the Judgment card. The Judgment is a card of a very strong kind of like fated events happening, things that create spiritual awakenings within us, that turn the tides of our life and help us ascend or move towards a different path. And with the Justice card, it's like you will get your fair retribution. You will have the good karma come back around, and the efforts that you put into things in the past are going to be reaped in the future. One of your advice cards is not only the liberation, but like the frustration, the anger, all those pent up emotions, putting it into something creative. That's part of your advice. The other one is wise leadership. This is a card of you really taking taking charge of things. And this to me really relates to Venus in the 10th. So there could be something in your life where you need to be your own authority in some way. So this could mean that you start to try to kind of do something off on your own. So for example, if you're looking for your job to give you that fairness and it's not happening, like they're not giving you the raise or the recognition you deserve, this is kind of like taking things into your own hands in the sense that you feel that you becoming a leader, you taking charge, you making decisions or taking up space in a way that you hadn't, really believing in yourself. So it's like instead of waiting for permission to get promoted, you kind of embody that promotion within the role that you have already. Or instead of waiting to get promoted, you start your own side business where you have total control over how much money that you can make by putting in the effort. So there's a sense of like, I don't need to wait to be given something from somebody else. I just need to believe and embody the energy of a leader. Again, this does involve some action, but not the anxious, fearful, trying to prove oneself subservient action of Mars in the 6th, where you're like, please, please give me like a piece of bread. I'm your subordinate. No, this is like, I am the leader. I'm the authority. And this doesn't mean that you're going to say these things, right? Because if you're not actually the authority there, you wouldn't, but you're embodying that energy of, I know what I have to say or what I contribute is valuable. I know I have a lot to offer. I might even go off and do this on my own and gain even more power and independence back as a result of that and feel even better because, hey, I could lose this job and I have another way to make money and I can take care of my own ish. So there's something here where I feel like you guys are going to get your karma coming back around for sure. And I definitely feel like with this wise leadership, you guys are coming into a little bit more of like your own empowerment here instead of waiting for other people to give you their scraps. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Aquarius. That is your advice. I hope that resonates. If it does, please comment down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, and last but not least, we have Pisces rising and sun. This Libra solar eclipse happening on October 2nd is taking place in your 8th house. And before I get into the astrology, I want to mention the cards that I have. I have 2 distinct piles. One pile of the cards seems very excitable, very energized, like optimistic, engaged with life, and really kind of getting the accolades that you deserve. And then the other side of the cards is more of like the shadow self where we undermine ourselves. We have insecurities. We're uncertain. We are back and forth. We stagnate. And I'm seeing these 2 polarities here. And you are a mutable sign, which means that there is that kind of back and forth energy that's already in your nature. And this eclipse is in Libra, which is an indecisive sign and can have kind of that back and forth type of vibe as well. And this eclipse is taking place in the 8th house, which is the house concerned with our insecurities and our shadow self. So I really feel like this eclipse is trying to bring awareness and light around the shadow self so that you can make a decision between these 2 kinds of mentalities. And the eclipse is a time for a new beginning. So we can relate to our shadow self differently and in a way that allows us to make peace with it, not reject it, but integrate it into ourself and move forward anyway, rather than allow that to cripple us or again, undermine us. I feel like that's the key word here, is like to not undermine yourself. So, okay. Yes, it's very possible that this eclipse could draw out some pretty big emotions within you. Let's talk about the shadow self first. So I have the Pancreas and the 7 of Swords. The Pancreas is a card around like anxiety and security, feeling really uncertain in oneself and how to move forward, maybe feeling kind of wishy-washy in your decisions. The 7 of Swords is where I got the word undermine from, like don't undermine yourself, or yeah, like this is a very sneaky card where you can kind of like deceive yourself and make yourself uncertain. Like you start to get in your own head and question your own reality and your own thoughts. And you're like, did that really happen? Was that really like it was? It's a very sneaky type of energy, like somebody coming in, moving something, and then you're like, wait, was that moved? And then you're like, no, I'm going crazy. And it's kind of this like gaslighting type of energy that's possible here, or, you know, gaslighting yourself, or, yeah, just like taking your own reality and your own sense of like fact, because that's what swords are. It's like fact, truth, and just simply what is. And the Seven of Swords creates like a little sly, kind of sneaky energy there that can be deceiving, again, deceptive, or like betrayal. And this could be from yourself or another person. But there's this type of energy here where that's kind of like leaking into your psyche and making you insecure, anxious. And this is part of the shadow self, but it could also, again, come from another person, because this is a Libra eclipse, which is a very relationship oriented eclipse. So other people could like say something that kind of like gets into your skin and kind of contributes to a certain way of thinking, and you could feel like, oh, am I making the right decision? I don't know. I'm like, and so this eclipse being in the 8th is all about finding empowerment, and empowerment can only come from owning all of ourself, again, from owning the part of ourselves that is doubting things at times, or that is uncertain. You can't be powerful and running from part of yourself. You have to fully take all of yourself with you and get all of yourself on board, despite at times incongruencies, in order to have all of the power to move forward to the impetus. I don't know why that word wanted to come out. The impetus to move forward, to be able to impact what's in front of you. But if you're allowing everything from the outside in, or if you're allowing the shadow self to kind of take over and get inside of your head and start to create this like deception around what's happening for you, or create, you know, not monsters, but like ghosts out of shadows, and seeing things, and being paranoid or scared, like that's very 8th house type of energy. So we don't want our mind to do that to us, and we don't want other people to do that to us either. And ultimately, the result of what's happening here is, with the Two of Pentacles and Hangman in reverse, is a lot of like back and forth. I have a lot of options. I have a lot of decisions I need to make, but I'm not making them. I don't know. The stagnant energy, that I feel like with the Hangman reverse, you're meant to come out of this stagnant energy. And I definitely think that this eclipse is going to provide that for you. Another message here is like, you might not see your options totally. With the Two of Pentacles, sometimes like you could be back and forth indecisive. Other times you could be in such a state of like survival or fear that you don't see the opportunities and options around you. You're kind of like, your scope is really limited. It's almost like when you go into a sympathetic nervous system reaction, parts of your body are not really operating as they normally would. They're kind of, I don't know if I want to say shutting down, but you know, to some degree, they're not as active, because other parts of your body are kicking up to like get you to survive, right? So maybe your heart races, or you start sweating, and it's because you're getting ready to run. The adrenaline's moving through your body, but then like digestion's going to slow down, and things that need to be calm in order to work properly are not going to be fully there. So that could also be part of this, is like not seeing all of the opportunities, or not perspectives, but like paths that you could take to create a prosperous situation out of this. So this is really like an eclipse where you're needing to get a hold of your mind. That's super, super important. And as well as with relationships as well, since this is a Libra eclipse and it's in the 8th house, which is a very intimate house. It's important to be aware of the influence that people have on you, and like if somebody has power over you, or if there are fears and things that are infiltrating the relationship and creating a disconnect. Like, it's just important to be aware of the shadow self and how that impacts relationships, or relationships and how that impacts the shadow self, and vice versa. This eclipse is also squaring Mars in the 5th house. And it's funny because the 5th house is all about fertility. And I did pull the rabbit card. So if some of you guys are looking for an answer around fertility, this could indicate that there is the potential right now for fertility, or at the very least, for there to be like a clearing of the energy to prepare for a very fertile period of time. So if that's something that you're looking for, pregnancy, then that's a message for you. Mars in the 5th house is where I've been saying in these readings, wherever Mars in Cancer is emotionally biased and somewhat protective or reactive. The 5th house is a house of like pleasures and joys and things that we're just really like attracted to. And there can be actually, now I'm thinking about with the rabbit and stimulation, there can definitely be some kind of like strong sexual energy during this eclipse. This isn't going to be for all of you, but some of you with the rabbit and stimulation card might find that there is temptation, I should say, around this eclipse. And whether that's good or bad temptation is kind of circumstantial, but that's a side message. But Mars in the 5th, it's going to want to complete immediate desires, even if those immediate desires are coming from an emotionally reactive place. Like, I'm just going to go drinking tonight because I'm really upset. Like, that is an emotional reaction to wanting to meet a certain desire or need, which is to feel peace or to feel chill or to connect with somebody, or, oh, I'm going to go get laid and have a one night stand because I'm feeling X, Y, and Z. And maybe you would wake up in the morning and regret that. So there's some kind of message here around really trying to not be so impulsive when it comes to satisfying our immediate needs or desires or pleasures or whatever, because I think it will ultimately lead to greater psychological dysfunction, which is what we're trying to resolve. But with an eclipse in the 8th house, we're trying to bring peace and balance into our own mindset and calm our hearts, calm our nervous system, calm our minds, so that we can feel like we're able to like know what we want out of life, basically, and connect better with others. And so yes, we want to avoid those kind of like, yeah, immediate resolution, like things for resolution, like gambling, drinking, going on the phone or having sex with random people, whatever it is. We want to make our choices more logical with this eclipse being in Libra, more intentional, and also healing ultimately for the inner child that is involved in the shadow self. If there's fear, you don't want to just mask all that fear by doing all these random things, because the fear is still there, and that inner child within you just wants to be maybe held or reassured or whatever. And we have to do that through the healthiest means, right? The ruler of this eclipse, Venus, is in Scorpio in your 9th house. So this is, okay, before I say that, Venus is in the 9th. It's also in a grand water trine. So it's trining Mars in Cancer in your 5th and trining Saturn and Pisces in the 1st. So anything involving Saturn during these eclipses or moons or any transit at all is just so significant because it's moving through your sign. This is a huge developmental year for you, Pisces, and a lot of things are building in ways that might be at times challenging, but they might also be really powerful and long lasting, in the sense that you can have really big chapters unfold, like buy a house, get married, or get divorced, or move somewhere new. Like big things like that can happen during Saturn transit. So this is a big deal to have this grand water trine involving Saturn in your 1st. And this is a period, again, of major self-development. And with this trining your Venus, or transiting Venus in the 9th, the ruler of this eclipse, you are really having to like construct your self-concept right now. And that sometimes means that you have to kind of challenge your existing way of viewing things. And that Mars in Cancer in the 5th, or this eclipse being in the 8th, can draw out these, again, the shadow self and these immediate reactions that might feel like it's who you are. But the Saturn in the 1st is saying, let's build these really healthy and foundational aspects of the self that can last us, that are more tempered, that are more wise, that's using our discernment. And let's make these really healthy decisions that think about the long term and the kind of person that we want to become, instead of just doing what comes easy to us in the moment, if that makes sense. Um, and with Venus in the ninth, this eclipse, even though it might feel initially like a little scary, it is a prosperous eclipse. It is leading to a better future. It is leading to a time, again, fertility, a time of abundance, a time where we have the ability to overcome something. The rabbit is a very strong animal with survival instincts, or has strong survival instincts. Everyone sees, I mean, if you have rabbits in your area, everyone sees how much they are on alert and they're like ready to run. And I think that that's part of the energy of this eclipse, is part of the shadow self, part of your inner child is probably really on high alert and is very sensitive, psychically sensitive. I think you're very intuitive right now, and you're able to use that alertness to help guide you away from danger or away from toxic or negative situations, and to overcome them, because the eighth house can involve sometimes getting involved in toxic situations that we need to transform for our better interests. So there's a very strong survival instinct here that I think the rabbit is encouraging you to engage in, but also to not just like live in fear, right? We don't want to be just super reactive and fearful and running and just like hyper vigilant all the time, but we can use the wisdom of the rabbit to connect with the Venus in the ninth house sense of faith and hope and optimism, and merge these things together so that we're listening to our intuition, we're listening to our discernment, but we're also not just like fearful. We have hope and faith at the same time. And from that place, we're able to make wise decisions. So there's such a fine line between that I think you guys, I think that you guys are going to explore that line between kind of like fear, but fear versus like healthy alertness, overly suspicious with trusting your intuition. There's a fine line between those things that you guys are going to navigate at this time. There can be some element of the situation now that might feel like unpredictable or a little volatile, or emotionally a little volatile, like you're kind of all over the place. And the rabbit here can help you adapt and again pick up the pace and run when necessary, or move to necessary places. There is again such a strong discernment here. One of the messages of this card is to look before you leap. So there could be something here with that where I mean, this is not to say like not, if you're thinking about something and a choice feels right to you, you can trust that, but there is always something about, doing your research, making sure that whatever you're navigating at this time, you're doing it from a place of, again, wisdom, rather than just like reactions. And and I definitely feel like with the stimulation card, tempers could run hot or attraction could run hot, and so you just want to proceed with caution in a healthy way, and not too much of a fearful way. And two of the other cards that I pulled are the Chariot and the Six of Wands. So I feel like when you are in this energy of the positive side of the rabbit and stimulation card, this is a time of moving forward, of having confidence, of believing in yourself, of seeing the fertility and the rebirth that is around you, because the rabbit is associated with spring, which is a season of rebirth where everything is coming back to life, and eclipses in the eighth house are very much about a rebirth. So there's something that we're needing to let go of and step into here. And once you allow yourself to do that, instead of getting kind of caught in a cycle or a story around the shadow self, once you allow yourself to integrate maybe part of that shadow, and ultimately step more into that strong rabbit energy, I see you with the Chariot and the Six of Wands coming into a place of greater visibility. And I think this has to deal with Venus being in the ninth, where you are having like, yeah, I see the ninth as kind of God shining his light on you, or their light, or whatever. And you kind of receiving favor from the angels, receiving favor from the universe, being able to be recognized or honored for who you are and the way that you're showing up and the decisions that you're making, living in integrity with yourself, using your discernment, and being able to make decisions even quickly because you're so grounded into your seat of wisdom, your higher self, your intuition, your inner knowing, that you're able to be decisive, to be confident, and to not have this kind of wishy-washy, uncertain energy. And from that place, you take up more space. People see that in you. People respect that in you. People admire that with the Chariot and the Six of Wands. I'm just seeing like a lot of discipline, willpower, discernment, feeling kind of full of your own power and energy in a positive way, instead of this like, oh, I don't know who I am, I don't know what to believe, I don't know what to do, I'm having doubt, or I'm undermining myself. It's like, no, I am kind of like full of this sense of confidence and sense of self that I think Saturn in the first house is slowly developing within you. There is some work to get this discernment. Saturn earns his wisdom through hard work, through challenges, through situations that kind of tear you down and then build you back up. And it's through that labor, that effort, that the muscle rebuilds, that you rebuild and you are reborn as a more confident person that feels much more worthy. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Pisces. If this resonates, please let me know in the comments down below your story, your situation. I'd love to hear. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye.